Hey truckers, today we're seeing part 28 of Villain Tricks Heroines into Hating the MC. Let's dive into the video. The desolate plains of the Outer Rim Star stretched before Lin Fei, a dusty expanse dotted with jagged rock formations. The air hummed with an oppressive energy, a stark contrast to the vibrant life force of the human realm. This was the frontier, the buffer zone between the human-controlled cosmos and the uncharted territory of the ancient devil stars. Days had bled into weeks as Lin Fei traversed the desolate landscape, his senses perpetually on high alert. His singular goal, demon cores, fueled his relentless pursuit. Every demon he encountered, from lowly imps to hulking brutes, met a swift and brutal end. The divine phoenix, perched on his shoulder, absorbed the essence of each core like a living furnace, its fiery plumage deepening in color with each kill. One evening, as the twin sons of the star dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows, Lin Fei noticed a peculiar shift. The usually scattered demon patrols started congregating in the western region, a flurry of activity breaking the monotonous silence. Curiosity piqued, Lin Fei followed, his movements a blur as he utilized his advanced stealth techniques. He wasn't spotted. As he reached the designated location, a sight unfolded that sent a jolt through him. A makeshift platform stood in the center of a clearing, surrounded by demonic figures radiating an aura of power. Across from them, three figures hovered, the unmistakable silhouettes of Star Lords. Tension crackled in the air. Lin Fei, concealed within a shroud of invisibility, became an unseen observer. The negotiations, conducted in harsh guttural growls and clipped pronouncements, were tense. The Star Lords, their imposing presence a stark contrast to the scrawny demons, demanded entry into the ancient devil stars. The demon representatives, however, were adamant. They feared the Star Lord's power, their divine sense as a threat to the intricate formations masking the cluster's true defenses. The Star Lords, with their vast resources and access to powerful artifacts, could dismantle those defenses given enough time and information. The negotiations ended in a stalemate. The demons retreated, their message clear: trespass would be met with hostility. The Star Lords lingered, frustration etched on their faces. Lin Fei, unseen and unheard, saw an opportunity. He emerged from his invisibility, his sudden presence causing a ripple of surprise amongst the Star Lords. One, a wiry figure with a goatee of crackling energy, regarded him with narrowed eyes. "Who are you?" the Star Lord boomed, his voice echoing in the silence. Lin Fei, ever the pragmatist, saw a chance to further his own goals. "I am a lone cultivator, seeking power," he declared, his voice steady. "I witnessed your predicament. Allow me to help." The Star Lords exchanged wary glances. Lin Fei, a mere divine spirit realm cultivator, offered himself as a solution? Yet, the potential benefits were undeniable. He could be their eyes and ears, infiltrating the heavily guarded cluster and uncovering its secrets. "How do we know we can trust you?" another Star Lord inquired, a woman with fiery red hair and eyes that crackled with contained power. "Simple," Lin Fei replied, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "Equip me with the means to survive and escape undetected, and I'll provide you with real-time intel." A win-win proposition. Intrigue flickered in the Star Lord's eyes. The gamble was risky, but the potential reward, a blueprint of the ancient Devil Star's defenses, was too tempting to ignore. After a brief discussion, they agreed. From their spatial rings, they produced an assortment of treasures. The most valuable, the Astral Eye, projected a holographic display allowing them to see through Lin Fei's perspective. Alongside that came a plethora of defensive talismans, potent enough to deflect even a Star Lord's casual attack, and escape talismans, a last resort against unforeseen threats. Lin Fei, satisfied with the deal, accepted the treasures with a curt nod. "Then let's begin," he declared, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. The Star Lords observed him, a mix of hope and trepidation in their gazes. Lin Fei's eyebrows shot up in surprise as the Star-Lord with the crackling goatee elaborated. "We're looking for someone," the wiry Star-Lord continued, "a woman known as the Scarlet Star Slaughter Goddess, Yu Qing. Short in stature, with fiery red hair and eyes that could burn a hole through a lesser cultivator." Lin Fei committed the details to memory. Short in stature, fiery red hair and eyes, a fearsome reputation as a cultivator. It was a useful tidbit of information, one he tucked away for later analysis. "Leave it to me," he declared, his voice firm. "I'll infiltrate the heart of the ancient devil stars and bring back any information, or if fate permits, the woman herself." The deal struck, Lin Fei took his leave. A wry smile played on his lips as he activated the cloaking formations on his ship, rendering it invisible to prying eyes. Back in the relative comfort of his vessel, he steered it towards the heart of the ancient devil stars, a thrill coursing through him. The Star Lords, meanwhile, observed his every move through the astral eye. This wasn't just a simple viewing device, it served a multitude of purposes. It allowed them to track his location, ensuring he hadn't veered off course, and more importantly, it functioned as a conduit for a spatial tunnel. In essence, if needed, they could use the eye to teleport themselves directly to Lin Fei's location. It was a failsafe, a desperate measure they hoped wouldn't be necessary. Lin Fei, oblivious to the extent of their surveillance, navigated the treacherous landscape of the ancient devil stars. Each star held a different tribe of demons, each with their own unique customs and ferocity. He encountered hulking beasts with obsidian skin and glowing red eyes, nimble imps wielding wicked barbs, and even towering figures radiating an aura of dark magic. His primary focus remained the acquisition of demon cores. The divine phoenix, a constant fiery presence on his shoulder, craved these sources of power. Lin Fei, however, wasn't just a mindless hunter. He observed the demons, their social structures, and their patrol routes. All this information would be valuable bargaining chips later, should he need to leverage it against the Star Lords or anyone else for that matter. One day, while traversing a particularly dusty wasteland, he stumbled upon a sight that sent a shiver down his spine. A sprawling metropolis, carved into the side of a colossal mountain, shimmered in the distance. Banners bearing the insignia of a snarling demon head fluttered in the wind, and an oppressive aura emanated from the city. Check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. This, he realized with a jolt, was no ordinary demon settlement. It was a major stronghold, most likely the seat of power for a particularly powerful tribe. Curiosity, a dangerous companion, battled with caution within him. This city held the potential for rich pickings in terms of demon cores, but it also harbored unknown dangers. Lin Fei, ever the pragmatist, decided on a reconnaissance mission. He activated an invisibility talisman, its shimmering energy enveloping him, and cloaked himself in shadows. The city loomed before him, a labyrinth of towering structures and bustling streets teeming with demonic life. This was a gamble, a chance to gather valuable intel and potentially acquire a significant number of demon cores. Back on the heavenly Jade Pavilion's cloaked vessel, a different scene unfolded. Wang Jian, reclining on plush cushions, savored a goblet of aged celestial wine presented by a kneeling Cui Lan. The journey had been monotonous, punctuated only by fleeting moments of carnal pleasure with the beautiful women under his control. "Another refill, Lan," he drawled, his eyes glinting with amusement. Cui Lan complied silently, her face a mask of forced serenity. The eternal slave contract ensured her obedience, but it couldn't erase the simmering resentment that resided within her. Meanwhile, the elders, their youthful beauty belying their immense cultivation, huddled over a holographic display projected from a shimmering orb. This observational treasure, as they called it, allowed them to scan the surrounding stars for signs of activity. It functioned in tandem with the ship's own array formations, providing a comprehensive view of the surrounding celestial bodies. Redstone Devils on Star X12, announced Elder May, her voice crisp and efficient. A relatively weak tribe, known for their reliance on mining and rudimentary formations. Wang Jian grunted, his attention momentarily diverted from his goblet. Noted. Anything more interesting? Elder Lin, the eldest among them, adjusted her spectacles and leaned closer to the display. Star X37, intriguing. The readings suggest a powerful tribe with a strong affinity for darkness manipulation. Name? Wang Jian inquired, a spark of curiosity flickering in his eyes. The Shadow Spawn, Elder Lin replied. A notoriously ruthless tribe known for their dark rituals and mastery of shadow magic. As the information flowed, a pattern began to emerge. Each star held a different demon tribe, each with its own unique characteristics and power base. Wang Jian, ever the strategist, meticulously documented their findings. This intel could prove invaluable in the future, should he choose to exert his influence over this region. Suddenly, a flicker of surprise crossed Elder May's face. Master Wang, she exclaimed, this is unexpected. Star X98 appears to be a stronghold of the Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe. Wang Jian froze, the goblet halfway to his lips. Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe? The name sent a jolt of recognition through him. It was a bloodline he himself possessed, a legacy inherited from the mysterious Sky Marshal continent, his minor world within his own body. Could there be a connection? Was this tribe somehow linked to the source of his power, to the strange continent that had been fused with his very being? A wave of unease washed over him. This unexpected discovery was both intriguing and unnerving. He dismissed the women with a curt wave of his hand, the playful mood shattered. Alone in the opulent chamber, Wang Jian paced, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. The elders, sensing his sudden shift in mood, exchanged worried glances. They had never seen their usually arrogant and domineering master so uncertain. Prepare the ship for a discreet approach to Star X98, Wang Jian finally commanded, his voice tight with a mixture of apprehension and anticipation. We're going to take a closer look at this Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe. The elders, unaware of the significance this discovery held for Wang Jian, bowed in unison. The ship, cloaked in its veil of invisibility, hummed to life, its course charted towards the star. Meanwhile, within the sprawling demon city, Lin Fei, shrouded in his invisibility talisman, found himself navigating a maze of twisting alleys and towering structures. The air crackled with an oppressive energy, heavy with the stench of sulfur and the sounds of demonic growls echoing from unseen corners. His senses were on high alert, constantly scanning his surroundings for any sign of danger. He observed towering muscular figures, their bodies adorned with gruesome tattoos, patrolling the streets. Smaller, gremlin-like creatures scuttled through the shadows, snatching scraps from overflowing garbage piles. Lin Fei's primary focus remained gathering information and locating potential sources of powerful demon cores. He spotted a towering obsidian building, clearly the heart of the city, and made a mental note to explore it later. Right now, discretion was key. He noticed a group of demons huddled around a glowing sigil etched into a crumbling wall. Curiosity piqued, he edged closer, careful not to break his invisibility. He overheard snippets of their conversation, his brow furrowing in confusion. The shadow tribute, it's overdue, one demon growled, his voice gravelly. The Shadow King won't be pleased, another chimed in, his voice laced with fear. They say a sacrifice is being prepared, up-to-date OVLS on OVL bin.cm. Lin Fei's eyes narrowed. Shadow King? Sacrifice? This was valuable bit of information. Following them at a safe distance, Lin Fei weaved through the throngs of demons. The stench worsened, a sickening concoction of sweat, brimstone, and something far more disturbing, fear. It clung to the city like a thick fog. He found himself approaching the obsidian building, its imposing presence dominating the skyline. The demons he'd been tailing entered through a colossal gate, its surface etched with grotesque, writhing figures. Lin Fei contemplated his options. He couldn't just barge in, not without a plan. He needed more information, a better understanding of the Shadow King and the potential sacrifice. But where to start? Suddenly, a commotion erupted from an adjacent alley. A group of human women, their faces etched with terror, were being dragged away by hulking demons. Lin Fei's blood ran cold. Humans? Here, in the heart of a demon-controlled city? He darted into a shadowed alcove, the invisibility talisman muffling his movements. Curiosity, laced with a growing sense of outrage, propelled him forward. He peeked around the corner, his eyes widening in disbelief. A sprawling marketplace stretched before him, a chaotic tapestry of sights and sounds. But it wasn't the demonic wares or the unsettling bartering that drew his attention. It was the people. Hundreds, maybe even thousands, of humans. Men, women, children, all clad in ragged clothing, their faces etched with despair. They bustled about, their movements sluggish, their eyes vacant. It was a scene ripped straight from a nightmare. Lin Fei couldn't believe his eyes. These were the missing humans, the ones whispered about in hushed tones across the cosmos. He had stumbled upon a chilling truth: the Shadow Spawn tribe was holding them captive. But the further his gaze roamed, the more disturbing the scene became. The beautiful women, their faces pale and drawn, were bartered with a sickening casualness. Wealthy-looking demons haggled over them like prized possessions. He watched, a knot of fury tightening in his gut, as a demon tossed a young woman a hunk of rotten meat. Her eyes, once filled with spirit, now mirrored the hopelessness that seemed to permeate the entire market. Then he noticed it. The men. Unlike the women, they weren't kept under guard. They moved about freely, though their freedom seemed more like a cruel joke. They were left to mate with the women, to procreate and maintain a steady supply of humans for the demons. Disgust and anger churned within Lin Fei. This wasn't just captivity, it was a twisted human breeding ground. He clenched his fists, the invisibility talisman crackling with the surge of his power. He couldn't stand by and watch this horror unfold. He had to do something. Freeing these people, all of them, became his new mission. But how? This was a heavily guarded city, and Lin Fei was just one man, invisible or not. He needed a plan, a way to strike a decisive blow against the Shadow Spawn and liberate the humans. He scanned the marketplace, his sharp eyes taking in details. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter, their movements predictable. The women were kept penned in a fenced-off area near the back, their guards more relaxed, likely because they considered them no threat. The focus was on controlling the men. A sliver of hope flickered in Lin Fei's mind. If he could create a diversion, a large enough one, he could potentially free the women and use them as leverage to bargain for the men's release. It was a risky gamble, but the alternative, watching these people remain slaves, was unthinkable. He retreated back into the alleys, his mind racing. He needed the right opportunity, a moment of weakness in the Shadow Spawn's defenses. The following hours were a blur of observation and strategizing. Lin Fei scoured the city, a silent wraith flitting through the shadows. He studied patrol routes, guard placements, and the overall layout of the city. The obsidian building remained his primary target, but his focus had shifted to liberating the humans. He needed an advantage, a way to even the odds. One evening, as he perched on a gargoyle overlooking a bustling street, a flicker of energy caught his attention. It emanated from a sprawling mansion, its dark architecture a stark contrast to the surrounding shoddy buildings. It reeked of power, a clear indication of an influential demon's residence. With a surge of curiosity, Lin Fei darted towards the mansion, his senses on high alert. As he neared the perimeter wall, he felt a surge of unexpected energy, a faint human aura. Surprise jolted him. Humans in a demon's residence? It defied logic. He cautiously inched closer, his gaze fixed on a well-lit window on the upper floor. Through the sheer curtains, he saw a sight that sent a jolt through him. A young woman, no older than 20, sat by the window. Her fiery red hair cascaded down her shoulders, framing a face of exquisite beauty. Her eyes, though filled with a deep sadness, held a spark of defiance. Lin Fei's heart pounded in his chest. This wasn't just any human, she was undeniably beautiful, a stark contrast to the haggard faces he'd witnessed in the marketplace. A cynical thought flickered in his mind, perhaps this was the demon's prized possession, a human trophy kept for his own amusement. He dismissed the thought, focusing on the woman. Taking a deep breath, Lin Fei deactivated his invisibility talisman. He materialized on the rooftop, his sudden appearance startling a pair of patrolling demons guarding the mansion. Before they could react, Lin Fei unleashed a torrent of golden flames, courtesy of the divine phoenix perched on his shoulder. The demons, caught off guard, were engulfed in the inferno, their screams muffled by the chi of Lin Fei. Lin Fei, his heart hammering, landed gracefully on the balcony outside the woman's window. He rapped on the glass, his expression a mix of concern and urgency. The woman's head snapped towards him, her eyes widening in shock. Fear battled with a flicker of hope in her gaze. Lin Fei, maintaining a facade of righteousness, spoke in a voice laced with empathy. "I come in peace," he declared, his tone sincere. "I am a cultivator, here to help liberate the humans enslaved by these demons." The woman, hesitant at first, studied him intently. His words resonated with a deep longing within her. Could this be their chance, their long-awaited salvation? Desperate for hope, she unlocked the window, allowing him to enter. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "My name is Lin Fei," he replied, offering a reassuring smile. "I understand you're not alone. There are others here, are there not?" The woman, whose name was Chinliaki, confirmed his suspicions. Several other women, all beautiful like her, were held captive in this mansion. They were the demon lord's trophies, paraded and admired. As Chinliaki recounted her harrowing experience, Lin Fei listened intently. His initial cynical thought about saving only the beautiful women was solidifying. He pictured them, grateful and indebted to him, readily offering their bodies and loyalty. A cruel smile played on his lips, a secret he kept hidden beneath his mask of heroism. "There is hope, Chinliaki," he declared, his voice firm. "I have a plan to weaken the demons and give the humans a fighting chance." He then outlined his two-pronged strategy, using his stock of holy water to contaminate the city's water supply, rendering the demons weak, and setting up a citywide array that would suppress their demonic bloodline cultivation. With their power diminished, the humans could rise up and fight back. Chinliaki's eyes sparkled with newfound determination. This was their chance, she believed, their one shot at freedom. Lin Fei, a beacon of hope in this dark city, had presented them with a fighting chance. "We can help," she declared, her voice ringing with newfound strength. "The other women and I, we know the layout of this city, the routines of the demons. We can be your eyes and ears." A twisted sense of satisfaction bloomed within Lin Fei. Chinliaki's unwavering belief in his fabricated heroism was a powerful tool he could exploit. He envisioned a future where these women, eternally grateful for their rescue, would readily offer themselves to him. After all, saving just a few beautiful women sounded infinitely more appealing than liberating a whole city of humans. Night after night, the demon city pulsed with a clandestine rhythm. Under the cloak of darkness, a rebellion blossomed, fueled by desperation and a yearning for freedom. Chinliaki, her beauty a stark contrast to the grim reality around her, emerged as an unlikely leader. Guided by whispers and stolen glances, other captive women, their spirits rekindled by a sliver of hope, joined the cause. They moved with a practiced efficiency born of years of silent observation, their movements a silent symphony of defiance. One by one, they infiltrated the city's water reservoirs. Using ornate vials provided by Lin Fei, they carefully dispensed the holy water, their hands trembling not with fear, but with the anticipation of payback. Each drop held the promise of a weakened enemy, a tilting of the power balance. Meanwhile, Lin Fei, a phantom flitting through the shadows, scouted key locations, guard posts, armories, the central communication hub. He memorized layouts, patrol schedules, anything that could give them an edge in the coming battle. But his mission wasn't limited to reconnaissance. He ventured into the human breeding camps, a harrowing descent into the heart of despair. The men, their spirits broken, looked up at him with vacant eyes. The women, their faces etched with a different kind of pain, watched him with a flicker of curiosity. Lin Fei, his voice laced with a carefully calculated mix of empathy and urgency, spoke of freedom, of a chance to fight back. He spoke of the poisoned water, the citywide array that would suppress the demon's power. He spoke of a signal, a moment when they would rise as one and reclaim their lives. His words, a spark in the tinderbox of their suppressed emotions, ignited a flicker of rebellion. With trembling hands, he lifted the suppressive restraints on their cultivation bases, a silent promise of power. "Stay hidden, gather your strength," he instructed, his voice low. "Wait for the signal. When it comes, unleash everything you have. Fight for yourselves, for your families, for your freedom." The humans, a motley crew of men and women, some hardened by years of captivity, others still clinging to a shred of their former selves, listened intently. Hope, a fragile bud, bloomed in their eyes. Here, in the depths of despair, a savior had appeared, a chance to reclaim their dignity, their lives. They nodded, their faces etched with a newfound determination. Secrets were exchanged, whispered plans formulated. The breeding camps, once a symbol of their subjugation, began to transform into simmering cauldrons of rebellion. Days turned into weeks, the tension thickening with each passing sunset. Chinliaki and the other women, their movements more purposeful now, completed the final touches on the citywide array. Intricate patterns, etched with Lin Fei's guidance, pulsed with a faint luminescence, waiting to be unleashed. Discover NW Chapter SNN0EL by.com. The city, oblivious to the silent storm brewing beneath its surface, continued its daily routines. The demons, arrogant in their power, strolled through the streets, their laughter echoing off the buildings. Little did they know that the ground beneath their feet was about to crumble. Lin Fei, having completed his preparations, retreated to a hidden vantage point. His gaze swept across the cityscape, taking in the guard towers, the bustling marketplace, the imposing obsidian building that housed the Shadow King. A cold smile played on his lips. The stage was set. All that was left was to light the fire. He closed his eyes, picturing the faces of Chinliaki and the other women, their determination fueling his resolve. He thought of the men and women in the breeding camps, their suppressed power waiting to be unleashed. This wasn't just about saving humanity, it was about acquiring his own personal harem of beautiful women. A deep breath filled his lungs, and with it, a surge of power. He raised his hand, a single finger pointed towards the sky. A burst of energy erupted from his palm, a silent signal that pierced through the darkness. The rebellion, meticulously planned, meticulously executed, was about to begin. A world bathed in perpetual twilight greeted Wang Jian as his cloaked ship descended upon X-98, the star harboring the blue moon eclipse devil tribe. A shiver, not from the cool air, ran down his spine. This was the land of his mysterious heritage, the source of the strange continent nestled within him. He landed the vessel discreetly, a hidden valley cradling it amongst jagged, obsidian peaks. Here, away from prying eyes, he revealed his plan to Elder Lin and Pavilion Mistress Chui Lan, their faces etched with a mixture of surprise and intrigue. "I possess the bloodline of the Blue Moon Eclipse Devils," he declared, his voice laced with a hint of satisfaction. "This connection, it explains much." To demonstrate, he raised his hand, focusing his energy. A soft, ethereal glow emanated from his palm, moonlight, pure and unadulterated. The lunar element, rarely seen on this predominantly solar-powered continent, pulsed with an otherworldly luminescence. Chui Lan's eyes widened in surprise. "The lunar arts," she murmured, a hint of awe in her voice. "A rare talent even amongst demons." With a casual flick of his wrist, Wang Jian enveloped them all in a shroud of darkness, his shadow element cloaking their presence. "Let's see what secrets this tribe holds," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. They descended from the mesa, their footsteps silent on the dusty ground. The settlement that emerged before them was a stark contrast to the brutal city Lin Fei navigated. Here, the buildings, though still constructed from dark stone, were adorned with intricate moonstone carvings. The streets bustled with activity, but the atmosphere was strangely peaceful. The Blue Moon Eclipse Devils themselves were a curious sight. They bore a strong resemblance to humans, with only subtle differences: elongated canines, a faint bluish tinge to their skin, and eyes that shimmered like polished obsidian under the moonlight. Suddenly, a commotion erupted in the center of the marketplace. A crowd gathered around a raised platform, their faces etched with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Wang Jian, his curiosity piqued, nudged Chui Lan closer. "What's happening?" he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. Chui Lan, ever observant, scanned the scene. "A trial of blood," she replied, her voice low. "It seems a young one has awakened their lunar affinity." A young demon, barely out of childhood, stood on the platform. His indigo skin glowed faintly, his eyes shimmering with an intense lavender light. An elder, adorned with elaborate ceremonial robes, held a vial filled with a swirling silver liquid. The trial of blood, as Chui Lan explained, was a rite of passage for those within the Blue Moon Eclipse tribe who manifested their lunar heritage. The vial contained lunar essence, a potent and volatile substance. The young demon had to absorb it without succumbing to its overwhelming power. It was a test of their strength, their potential, their connection to the lunar bloodline. Wang Jian watched, a flicker of interest in his eyes. The ritual was vaguely familiar, a distorted echo of ceremonies he had witnessed among the traditions that passed down in Sky Martial Continent. Yet, there was an undeniable rawness, a primal urgency that resonated with him. This was because the lunar essence that he sensed was unbelievably powerful and pure. As the elder poured the lunar essence onto the young demon's head, a gasp rippled through the crowd. The boy convulsed, his body racked with pain as the energy coursed through him. His lavender eyes flared, threatening to consume his entire form. Wang Jian felt a surge of energy within himself, a sympathetic echo of the boy's struggle. It was an instinctual reaction, a primal connection to the blood that flowed in their veins. He glanced at Chui Lan, a hint of a plan forming in his mind. This ritual, this unexpected event, could be used to his advantage. A twisted smile flickered across his lips. The Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe might hold the key to unlocking the full potential of his own bloodline, and he wouldn't hesitate to exploit it for his own gain. "Chui Lan," he murmured, leaning closer to the pavilion mistress, "that essence. I want it. We need to steal it." Chui Lan's eyes widened. "Steal it? Master Wang, that's unwise. Even with your bloodline, these demons won't hesitate to attack." Lunar essence is sacred, a gift from the lunar devil gods themselves. Elder Ming, ever cautious, chimed in, her voice laced with concern. The consequences of such a transgression could be dire, Master Wang. We must consider alternative methods. Wang Jian scoffed, his amusement tinged with irritation. Relax, ladies, he said, reaching out to smack both Cui Lan and Elder Ming on their curvaceous buttocks. A little chaos never hurt anyone. The women gaped at him, their faces flushed red with a mixture of outrage and arousal. Wang Jian, unfazed by their reaction, continued, a predatory glint in his eyes. Listen, he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. We need that essence. It'll supercharge my bloodline, take my power to a whole new level. But snatching it directly? Nah, too risky. He surveyed the bustling marketplace, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. We create a diversion. Cui Lan and the elders exchanged apprehensive glances. Creating a diversion sounded better than outright theft, but they couldn't shake off the feeling this wouldn't end well. A diversion? Elder Gua ventured, her voice barely a squeak. Wang Jian chuckled, a dark, humorless sound. Think bigger, Elder. We create a spectacle. Something so chaotic, so brilliantly destructive, that the entire settlement will be too preoccupied to notice a few outsiders slipping away with a vial of glowing liquid. He stared at them and spoke, I think we should set up fire to this place. It should cause enough chaos. Naturally, we need to think of a good plan for that. If we do it lazily, we will be caught. The women sucked in a collective breath. Setting fire to an entire settlement of devil tribe in their own territory? Wang Jian's idea of a diversion seemed more like a recipe for disaster. But trapped in his invisible bubble, with no other choice, they knew they were in for a wild ride. All right, Master Wang, Cui Lan finally conceded, a steely glint replacing the worry in her eyes. Let's hear this crazy plan of yours. Wang Jian, a wolfish grin plastered on his face, leaned in, his voice dripping with a terrifying calmness. First, ladies, he murmured, let's paint this town red, literally. Wang Jian's eyes gleamed with a predatory glint as he surveyed the bustling marketplace. Fire, he declared, his voice laced with a dangerous certainty, will be our instrument of chaos. But a fire fueled by ordinary flames wouldn't do, Thus, Wang Jian needed to exploit the Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe's weakness. As a descendant of their bloodline, he possessed a crucial piece of information, their vulnerability to the sacred and solar attributes. A sly smile played on his lips. He, unlike these pure Blue Moon Eclipse devils, possessed both these attributes. A perfect advantage for the mayhem he envisioned. With a flick of his wrist, Wang Jian shrouded them in the familiar comfort of darkness. They were all then moved away from the bustling marketplace, seeking a secluded corner of the settlement. Once a suitable location was found, devoid of prying eyes, Wang Jian unleashed another layer of shadows, creating a dome of impenetrable darkness around them. To truly instill fear, he explained, we need flames imbued with the power of the sacred or solar attribute. Something these devils haven't encountered before. Cui Lan's brow furrowed. But Master Wang, she interjected, neither the elders nor I possess such attributes. While we do possess artifacts imbued with these elements, they wouldn't be enough to create the kind of inferno you seem to envision. You updates tnvel/by.com. The elders, Elder Ming and Elder Gua, nodded in agreement, their faces etched with concern. Their expertise lay in cultivating other elements, not the very ones that could exploit the specific weakness. A sly grin stretched across Wang Jian's face. Fear not, my dear Cui Lan, he purred, his voice dripping with a hint of amusement. I wouldn't ask the impossible without providing the means. Intrigue flickered in Cui Lan's eyes, mirrored by the elders. Wang Jian closed his eyes, focusing his energy inwards. Minutes ticked by, filled with a tense silence. Then, with a flourish, he opened his eyes, revealing a sight that left the women awestruck. Floating before them, suspended within the shadows, were 20 shimmering orbs. Each one pulsed with an otherworldly glow, 10 radiating a warm, golden light, the power of the solar attribute, and the other 10 imbued with a pure, cleansing light, the sacred attribute. These, Wang Jian declared, his voice laced with a hint of pride, are sparks of the very elements we need. He carefully handed one orb each to Cui Lan and the elders. Infuse them with your spiritual energy, he instructed, along with any divine energy you possess. We need to amplify the core power within these sparks of solar and sacred attribute. The elders, their hands trembling slightly, cradled the orbs, feeling the warmth and power radiating from them. This was uncharted territory, a new level of manipulation they hadn't experienced before. Once infused, Wang Jian continued, his voice low and commanding, we are going to hurl them into the heart of the marketplace. The resulting conflagration will not only cause widespread chaos but also strike a deep fear into the hearts of these demons. Cui Lan, despite the reservations gnawing at her, understood the logic. A fire fueled by the antithesis of their very essence would be a terrifying sight, a symbol of their vulnerability. And then, she said, her voice firm, we make our move for the lunar essence. A slow, predatory smile spread across Wang Jian's face. Precisely, my dear Cui Lan. While they're scrambling to contain the inferno, we'll slip in, grab the essence, and be out of here before they even know what hit them. The plan, audacious and reckless, hung in the air. The women, their faces a mixture of fear and a strange kind of exhilaration, understood the gravity of the situation. They were accomplices in a scheme that could either grant them unimaginable prestige among humans or plunge them into the depths of despair at the hands of these devils. But there was no turning back now. A tense silence filled the air as the women channeled their energy into the orbs. Time seemed to slow down, the only sound the crackling of power as the sacred and solar attributes hummed with increasing intensity. Cui Lan, her brow furrowed in concentration, felt a surge of power course through her as she poured her divine energy into the sacred orb. Its celestial glow intensified, a miniature sun held captive in her hand. The elders, each focused on their respective orb, mirrored her actions. Their faces, normally serene and composed, now displayed a fierce determination. Despite their reservations, they were all in this together. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the orbs reached a peak. They pulsed with blinding light, threatening to burst from the sheer volume of power contained within. Wang Jian, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips, clapped his hands once. Excellent work, ladies, he commended, his voice laced with a hint of amusement. Now, replenish your reserves. He produced a vial filled with glistening spheres, their emerald glow a beacon of rejuvenation. These are the recovery pellets I concocted, he explained, his tone casual. Just one of them will be good enough to help you recover your spiritual energy. Relief washed over the women. The process of channeling their energy had been surprisingly draining. They started to pop the pellets into their mouths. The sweet, invigorating taste flooded their senses as their depleted energy reserves began to replenish. Once their strength was restored, Wang Jian flicked his wrist, the shadow dome dissolving into wisps of darkness. They found themselves back in the nondescript alleyway, the marketplace noise a distant hum once more. Wang Jian surveyed the area, his sharp eyes taking in the deserted surroundings. All right, ladies, he said, his voice low and commanding. The fun begins now. Unleash those fiery delights on the nearby buildings. His tone held an undeniable authority, a stark contrast to his usual playful demeanor. The eternal slave contracts, binding their souls to his will, served as a constant reminder of their precarious situation. Chui Lan and the elders, despite their reservations, knew they had no choice but to obey. They each selected a building near them, a strategically chosen target on the outskirts of the marketplace. With a silent nod from Wang Jian, they hurled the orbs. The orbs, infused with the stolen power, streaked through the air, leaving trails of blinding light. They collided with their targets, exploding in a blinding flash. A wave of searing heat washed over the area, followed by an otherworldly light that bathed the marketplace in an eerie glow. The sacred and solar attributes, anathema to the lunar based energies of the Blue Moon Eclipse tribe, unleashed their fury. Buildings erupted in flames, an unnatural fire that burned with an otherworldly intensity. The flames, devoid of the usual orange hues, shimmered with a blinding white and gold, defying all natural laws. Panic erupted in the marketplace. Shrieks rent the air as demons, both young and old, scrambled for cover. The unnatural flames seemed to defy all logic, spreading with a terrifying speed, leaving behind smoldering ruins in their wake. Chui Lan and the other women watched in stunned silence as the chaos they had unleashed unfolded before them. But amidst the terror, Wang Jian remained a calm figure, a predator observing the unfolding hunt. He hadn't intended for the situation to escalate to this degree. Ideally, he wanted to create a diversion, a localized incident that would allow him to slip away with the lunar essence unnoticed. But the sheer destructive power of the sacred and solar attributes had thrown his plan into disarray. The entire settlement was now in pandemonium, every demon focused on escaping the inferno, their attention diverted from their precious lunar essence. Wang Jian, seeing the unexpected opportunity unfold, a sly grin spread across his face. He grabbed Chui Lan's hand, his grip surprisingly firm. "Let's go," he murmured, his voice barely a whisper. Cloaked in the shadows, they slipped through the chaos, the terrified screams of the demons a macabre symphony. Their destination, the heart of the settlement, where the lunar essence was most likely to be housed. This unexpected turn of events had presented a golden opportunity, one that Wang Jian wasn't about to miss. The Blue Moon Eclipse tribe, consumed by their own fear, had unwittingly created the perfect cover for him to steal their most prized possession. As Wang Jian led them through the chaotic settlement, a mix of emotions flickered across the faces of Chui Lan and the elders. Anger simmered, a deep resentment towards the depravity of the eternal slave contracts that bound them. Yet, a grudging respect intertwined with that anger. Witnessing the settlement in such disarray, a primal satisfaction bloomed within them. These were devils, their sworn enemies, reduced to terrified creatures fleeing a fire they couldn't comprehend. It was a human victory, a twisted form of payback for millennia of suffering. But beyond the human element, a deeper awe settled in. Wang Jian's display of power was unprecedented. His knowledge encompassed an astonishing breadth of laws, array formations, alchemy, the very essence of the sacred and solar attributes, even the manipulation of flames at such an unnatural level. They'd never encountered such a wellspring of talent in their entire existence. Across the vast cosmos, across countless races and civilizations, whispers of prodigies reached them, each famed for a specific law. But here was Wang Jian, a walking anomaly who defied categorization. A tremor of fear, a primal instinct for survival, warred with their newfound respect. Unbeknownst to them, a subtle shift was taking place within their minds. The eternal slave contracts, while forceful, weren't the sole reason for their obedience. Witnessing Wang Jian's power, his seemingly boundless potential, began to subtly erode their resistance. A seed of submission, a twisted form of admiration, was taking root in their subconscious. The pride they held in their own cultivation, honed over centuries, felt utterly irrelevant in the face of such raw, untamed talent. Wang Jian, oblivious to the internal turmoil he'd caused, pressed on. He darted through alleys shrouded in smoke, his senses scanning for any sign of patrolling guards. Every now and then, a stray demon, face contorted in terror, would stumble past them, completely unaware of the invisible figures in their midst. "Did you find the lunar essence?" Cui Lan finally spoke, her voice low. "Where is it?" Wang Jian stopped, a mischievous glint in his eyes. He pointed towards a towering obsidian structure in the distance, its peak shrouded in churning smoke. "There," he said, a hint of a smirk playing on his lips, "the heart of the settlement, that appears to be their primary treasury, where their precious essence undoubtedly resides." Wang Jian, a phantom weaving through the chaos, led Cui Lan and the elders on a swift trek towards the heart of the settlement. The air hung thick with smoke and the panicked shrieks of fleeing demons. Buildings continued to erupt in flames, the unnatural light casting an eerie glow on their faces. Most demons, consumed by primal fear, abandoned their belongings in their desperate escape. Treasures, weapons, even personal trinkets lay scattered amidst the burning ruins, a testament to the raw terror unleashed by the sacred and solar flames. Survival, it seemed, trumped all material possessions for these lunar-based beings. Meanwhile, a different scene unfolded at the settlement's heart. Here, high-ranking blue moon eclipse devils, their faces grim, converged upon a towering obsidian structure, the central treasury. The flames, though devastating, hadn't reached this central location yet. For these devils, the lunar essence stored within the treasury held paramount importance. It was the lifeblood of their tribe, the very foundation of their bloodline's strength. Losing it would be a crippling blow, far worse than the destruction of their settlement. Their plan was simple: evacuate the essence, relocate to a safer haven, and rebuild. Their lunar resilience will allow them to rise again, stronger than before. Unfortunately for them, fate had a different script in store. Unbeknownst to the devils, a cloaked figure and his entourage of powerful women materialized outside the treasury gates. Wang Jian, a silent predator following the trail of high-ranking demons, had stumbled upon his target. He cast a glance at Cui Lan and the elders, his voice devoid of emotion. "Eliminate them," he commanded, his gaze cold and calculating. The women understood the order. Their immense power, honed over centuries of cultivation, surged within them. Divine ascension, a realm far above Wang Jian's own, imbued their movements with a deadly grace. The high-ranking devils, focused on securing the lunar essence, never saw the attack coming. A whirlwind of lethal attacks, swift and brutal, tore through their ranks. The screams that erupted were quickly silenced, choked off before they could alert others. The element of surprise, coupled with the overwhelming power of the women, ensured a swift and merciless victory. Cui Lan and the elders moved with practiced efficiency. Elder Ming, a blur of silver hair and crackling lightning, disintegrated a particularly stubborn elder with a flick of her wrist. Elder Gua, a whirlwind of emerald blades, carved a bloody path through the surprised devils. Cui Lan, her movements imbued with a deadly grace, ended her opponents with precise, chilling strikes. The battle was a slaughter, a horrifyingly one-sided affair. Within moments, the last blue moon eclipse devil lay twitching on the cold stone floor. As the last blue moon eclipse devil crumpled to the ground, a heavy silence descended. The only sound was the crackling of flames licking at the edges of the settlement. Cui Lan and the elders stood panting, their faces grim despite the victory. Wang Jian, ever pragmatic, wasted no time. "Excellent work," he acknowledged with a curt nod. "Now, let's see what treasures they've been hoarding." He strode towards the imposing obsidian doors of the lunar treasury. With a wave of his hand, the doors shimmered and creaked open, revealing a chamber bathed in an ethereal silver light. Inside, rows upon rows of gleaming vials glinted, each one containing a swirling silver liquid, the lunar essence. Wang Jian's eyes gleamed with a mixture of excitement and avarice. There were hundreds, maybe even thousands of vials, a veritable fortune of lunar power. He reached out, his fingers brushing against a cool vial. He could feel the potent energy coursing within, an echo of his own bloodline. "This," he murmured, his voice filled with a hint of reverence, "is what we came for." He swiftly began collecting the vials, filling his pockets and storage rings with the potent essence. Chui Lan and the elders watched in silence, a sense of foreboding growing within them. This wasn't just stealing, it was severing a tribe's lifeblood. As quickly as they had arrived, they departed. Wang Jian shrouded them all in a thick cloak of shadows, effectively erasing their presence. They melted into the smoky chaos, weaving through the burning streets until they reached the outskirts of the settlement. There, hidden beneath a canopy of charred trees, their invisible flying ship waited. With a thought, Wang Jian deactivated the cloaking technology, revealing the sleek vessel against the backdrop of the burning settlement. They boarded quickly, the urgency palpable. As they ascended into the night sky, the burning settlement shrunk into a ball of orange and yellow flames, a stark reminder of the destruction they had unleashed. Once aboard, Wang Jian found a secluded corner, pulling out one of the vials of lunar essence. He examined it closely, mesmerized by the swirling liquid within. His senses delved deeper, analyzing the intricate composition. This lunar essence wasn't simply pure lunar energy. It was a potent concoction, a divine cocktail as it were. He could sense a faint echo of a powerful bloodline, likely that of the lunar devil gods themselves, infused within the liquid. Mixed with this divine essence were traces of rare herbs and crushed lunar salts, all meticulously combined to amplify and refine the lunar properties. As he studied the concoction, a plan began to form in his mind. This wasn't just a source of power, it was a blueprint. He could dissect the composition, analyze the individual components, and attempt to replicate it. If successful, he wouldn't be reliant on stolen essence, he could create his own, a potent fuel for his bloodline. Intriguing, he muttered, a predatory glint in his eyes. This changes everything. A mischievous smile spread across his face. The chaos he had unleashed may have been excessive, but the potential reward was beyond anything he could have imagined. The Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe might be nursing their wounds, but Wang Jian was on the cusp of unlocking a power that could potentially elevate him to unimaginable heights. Wang Jian, a satisfied smirk plastered across his face, pocketed the vial of lunar essence. He turned his gaze towards Chui Lan and the elders, their faces a canvas of conflicting emotions. The weight of their situation, the precariousness of their forced servitude, hung heavy in the air. "Well, ladies," Wang Jian drawled, his voice dripping with a casual arrogance, "that wasn't so bad, was it? We caused a little mayhem, secured some valuable loot, and emerged unscathed." A tense silence followed his words. The women remained stoic, their lips pressed into thin lines. Wang Jian, unfazed by their disapproval, clapped his hands together with a theatrical flourish. "Now," he declared, his voice laced with a hint of mischief, "how about a little celebration?" Before they could react, he strode towards them, his movements predatory. A depraved grin, devoid of any genuine amusement, twisted his features. "Time to loosen up a bit," he purred, his eyes raking over their forms with a blatant leer. "Strip." The women, their faces etched with a mixture of humiliation and defiance, began to slowly remove their garments. The air crackled with a strange tension, a cocktail of fear, arousal, and simmering resentment. As the last pieces of clothing fell away, revealing their exquisite forms, Wang Jian's eyes burned with a predatory intensity. He moved with practiced ease, his touch both calculated and possessive. Chui Lan, the fire of defiance still flickering in her eyes, fought back a whimper as his touch ignited a storm of conflicting emotions within her. The pleasure, undeniable and intense, was laced with a bitter aftertaste of shame and degradation. The elders, their faces contorted in a mix of pain and pleasure, surrendered to the inevitable. Their bodies, honed by years of cultivation, responded instinctively, betraying the turmoil raging within their minds. The rest of the day blurred into a relentless wave of pleasure and pain. Wang Jian, fueled by a dark hunger, moved from one woman to another, his touch demanding, his desires relentless. Cui Lan, her initial resistance slowly crumbling, found herself lost in a sea of conflicting sensations. The pleasure, raw and primal, threatened to consume her, while a deep-seated loathing gnawed at her core. The elders, their initial defiance replaced by a resigned acceptance, surrendered to the storm. Their moans, a mixture of ecstasy and anguish, echoed through the confines of the ship. As the night deepened, Wang Jian, his carnal desires finally satiated, collapsed onto the plush bed, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. The women, drained and emotionally shattered, lay scattered around him, their naked bodies a testament to his dominance. He glanced at them, a flicker of something akin to amusement dancing in his eyes. "See, ladies," he murmured, his voice laced with a hint of arrogance, "that wasn't so bad, was it?" Cui Lan, her eyes filled with a cold, steely glint, refused to meet his gaze. The elders, their faces blank masks of exhaustion, simply stared at the ceiling. Wang Jian, unfazed by their silence, chuckled softly. He had taken what he wanted, both the lunar essence and his twisted form of pleasure. In his eyes, it was a victory on all fronts. The aftermath of their forced intimacy hung heavy in the air. The women, physically drained and emotionally shattered, lay sprawled on the plush cushions. Wang Jian, on the other hand, exuded an air of casual satisfaction. He stretched languidly, his gaze lingering on their exhausted forms for a fleeting moment before his attention shifted. With a predatory glint in his eyes, he retrieved the vial of lunar essence. This wasn't just a celebration reward, it was the key to unlocking his true potential. He uncorked the vial, the swirling silver liquid shimmering under the soft glow. Without hesitation, he tipped the vial, the potent lunar essence rushing down his throat. A wave of pure energy, raw and untamed, washed over him. It felt like a dam had burst, flooding his body with an essence that resonated deep within his blue moon eclipse devil bloodline. His muscles tensed, bones creaked, and a low growl rumbled from his chest. The lunar energy, a perfect match for his heritage, coursed through his veins, amplifying his senses and strengthening his very core. It was an agonizing yet exhilarating process, a baptism by lunar power. Hours bled into one another as Wang Jian endured the transformation. Beads of sweat formed on his brow, his body pushed to its very limits. But he gritted his teeth, a determined glint in his eyes. This power, this raw potential, was worth the pain. Meanwhile, on the surface of X-98 star, chaos erupted. News of the settlement attack spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through the Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe. The audacity of the attackers, the use of their sacred and solar weaknesses, it was an unprecedented act of aggression. The royal family, enraged and desperate, mobilized their forces. Every available devil was called upon to scour the planet for the perpetrators. Elite trackers, wielding artifacts like the Essence Discovering Mirror, were deployed to locate any traces of residual energy left behind. Their efforts, however, proved futile. Wang Jian, ever the meticulous planner, had foreseen this reaction. The flying ship, cloaked in advanced concealment arrays, remained a silent observer above the chaos. He had even gone a step further, manipulating the residual energy signatures of the flames to further confuse any attempts at tracking. The frustration on X-98 star only grew with each passing day. The royal family fumed, their pride wounded by the unknown attackers. The silence, the lack of leads, was maddening. Little did they know, the culprit responsible for their woes was hurtling through space, his stolen treasure fueling his transformation. Back aboard the ship, a groan escaped Cui Lan's lips as she stirred from a restless sleep. The events of the previous night weighed heavily on her mind. The humiliation, the violation, it filled her with a burning hatred for Wang Jian. Yet, a chilling fear also coiled around her heart. She glanced around, her gaze falling on the other elders. They too bore the marks of their ordeal, their faces etched with a mix of exhaustion and despair. As the ship continued its journey, a new dynamic settled within its metal walls. Wang Jian, now noticeably more powerful thanks to the lunar essence, reveled in his newfound strength. On X-98 star, frustration mounted within the Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe. Days bled into weeks, and despite their best efforts, the attackers remained a mystery. The essence discovering mirrors and other tracking artifacts yielded nothing. The royal family, their once proud demeanor replaced by simmering rage, demanded answers. Follow stories at n/VELB/in.com. Then, a glimmer of hope emerged. One of the more advanced artifacts, a pulsating orb known as the Stargazer's Eye, flickered to life. A faint energy signature, unmistakably human, registered on its intricate surface. The location? X-34 star, territory of the notoriously reclusive Shadowspawn tribe. The news sent a jolt through the royal family. The Shadowspawn, with their penchant for darkness and intrigue, were hardly allies. The possibility of them harboring their attacker was a bitter pill to swallow. But the royal family couldn't afford to ignore this lead. The Shadowspawn, the king, a hulking figure with horns that scraped the ceiling, boomed, his voice echoing through the chamber. Those wretched creatures harboring are a human fugitive. This is an act of war. The other members of the royal family, equally enraged, murmured their agreement. The Shadowspawn, a race known for their shadowy dealings and opportunistic alliances, were hardly trustworthy neighbors. This discovery confirmed their worst suspicions. "We shall not tolerate such treachery," the queen, her crimson eyes flashing with fury, declared. "We will send a message that will reverberate throughout the cosmos. We will crush the Shadowspawn and bring that human to his knees." A ripple of approval ran through the court. The decision was unanimous. A full-scale assault on X-34 star was on the horizon. The royal family wasted no time. They mobilized their most prized possession, the Royal Flying Battleship, a monstrosity of metal and arcane technology. This behemoth wasn't just a warship, it was a mobile fortress, capable of traveling vast distances through the cosmos. Its power core hummed with harnessed energy, drawing upon spatial nodes to teleport across the galaxy in a blink. The Royal Flying Battleship wasn't just a singular vessel, it housed a fleet within its metallic belly. Smaller battleships, bristling with weapons, served as its escorts, ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. Its offensive capabilities were legendary. Beams of pure destruction, capable of cleaving planets in two, could be unleashed from its cannons. It was a weapon of war, a symbol of the Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe's might. The royal family, along with an elite contingent of warriors, boarded the colossal vessel. An air of grim determination hung heavy in the air. This wasn't a mere raid, it was a show of force, a message to the entire galaxy that the Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe wouldn't tolerate disrespect. Meanwhile, on X-34 star, the Shadowspawn tribe remained blissfully unaware of the impending storm. They weren't a belligerent race, preferring to navigate the murky waters of galactic politics through manipulation and subterfuge. Open warfare wasn't their forte, and the idea of provoking a powerful tribe like the Blue Moon Eclipse Devils was unthinkable. Lin Fei, the unwitting catalyst for this brewing conflict, continued his reckless journey across the planet. He had no idea that his presence had stirred the hornet's nest. Little did he know, the peaceful days on X-34 star were numbered. The thunderous arrival of the Royal Flying Battleship would shatter the tranquility of the planet, plunging the Shadowspawn tribe into a desperate struggle for survival. The consequences of Lin Fei's actions, though unintentional, were about to come crashing down upon him, and the Shadowspawn tribe would be caught in the crossfire. As the colossal vessel tore through the void, a single question echoed: would the shadow spawn choose to fight or submit? Their answer would determine the fate of not just their tribe, but the unsuspecting Lin Fei as well. A tremor shook the very foundation of X-34 Star as the royal flying battleship emerged from the folds of hyperspace. Its colossal form, a monstrous amalgamation of metal and dark energy, cast a menacing shadow over the unsuspecting planet. The Shadow Spawn, a race accustomed to navigating the shadows, found themselves thrust into the harsh glare of a galactic war machine. Zardan, the wizened leader of the Shadow Spawn, felt a knot of apprehension tighten in his gut as he received the unexpected transmission. The royal family of the Blue Moon Eclipse Devils, a force to be reckoned with, requesting an audience? It was a chilling anomaly. With a resigned sigh, Zardan donned his ceremonial robes and made his way towards the designated landing zone. As the colossal vessel descended, a sense of awe mingled with fear washed over the gathered Shadow Spawn. They were a small, unassuming race, far removed from the brutal might the Blue Moon Eclipse Devils wielded. The landing ramp hissed open, revealing the imposing figures of the king and queen, flanked by their elite guard. Zardan approached them with a measured gait, his voice calm despite the churning emotions within him. "Greetings, esteemed guests," he bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect tinged with wariness. "May I inquire about the reason for your unannounced arrival?" The king, a hulking figure with horns that scraped the sky, snorted. His voice boomed across the landing zone, a tremor in itself. "Spare us the pleasantries, Shadow Spawn. We know what you're hiding." Zardan's brow furrowed. "Hiding? I assure you, Your Majesty, we have nothing to conceal." The queen, her crimson eyes narrowed, stepped forward. "Don't play coy with us," she hissed. "Our stargazers, I detected a human fugitive on your world. A human not bound by slave chains, mind you." Zardan's confusion deepened. Human fugitives? Here, on X-34 Star? Their society held no tolerance for outsiders, let alone free humans. Slaves, yes, those were plentiful among the various devil tribes, but free humans were a rarity. "Your Majesty," he replied, his voice firm yet respectful, "there are no free humans on X-34 Star. We maintain a strict policy of capturing any human trespassers and integrating them into our workforce." A sardonic snort escaped the king's lips. "Spare us the lies. Our technology doesn't lie. There's a human here, and we will have him." Zardan's mind raced. Could it be that human from the recent skirmish with the slavers? But surely, the Blue Moon Eclipse Devils wouldn't suspect the Shadow Spawn of harboring a runaway slave. He decided to play it safe. "Perhaps there has been a misunderstanding," he ventured. "We can assure you, Your Majesties, there are no fugitives on our planet. However, if there is a rogue human, rest assured, we will assist you in capturing him." The king's eyes narrowed further, a menacing glint in their depths. "That's more like it," he rumbled. "There has been an attack on one of our settlements on X-98 Star. And we have reason to believe this human is responsible." Zardan's surprise was genuine. An attack on a Blue Moon Eclipse settlement? Unthinkable. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice sincere, "we were completely unaware of such an attack. We condemn any act of aggression, and I assure you, the Shadow Spawn had no part in it." The queen stepped forward again, her voice dripping with suspicion. "Then you'll have no qualms about assisting us in apprehending this culprit, will you?" Zardan hesitated for a moment. Offering assistance to the Blue Moon Eclipse Devils was a risky proposition, but refusing their demands could be seen as defiance. He took a deep breath. "Of course, Your Majesties," he agreed with a nod. "We will dedicate all our resources to locating this human and bringing him to justice." A flicker of satisfaction crossed the king's face. Excellent, he boomed. Then consider this a joint operation. Our forces will remain here until the human is apprehended. Zardin's heart sank. Having the Blue Moon Eclipse devils on his doorstep was a nightmare scenario. Their presence disrupted the delicate balance of power within the sector, and their ruthless tactics could destabilize the entire region. But he had no choice. He had to appease them, at least for now. As you wish, your majesties, he replied, his voice betraying none of his inner turmoil. A tense silence descended upon the landing zone. A cold sweat prickled Zardin's skin as he dismissed the king and queen. The Blue Moon Eclipse devil's presence hung heavy in the air, an unwelcome shadow over X-34 star. He knew he had to act fast. Mobilize the entire tribe, he barked, his voice echoing through the chamber. Every devil, every tracker. We need to find this human fugitive, and fast. The Shadow Spawn, known for their meticulousness, sprang into action. Squads of devils fanned out across the planet, each equipped with an arsenal of tracking artifacts, human aura detectors, spectral scanners, the lot. They scoured every nook and cranny, the frustration mounting with each passing hour. The missing human was a phantom, leaving no trace of his presence. Meanwhile, on the far side of the planet, a storm of rebellion was brewing, and Lin Fei was putting his meticulously planned coup into action. Weeks of preparation had culminated at this moment. He had secretly rallied the human slaves in the settlement, subtly weakening the spiritual and illusionary chains that bound them. With a touch of his unique energy, he'd made these spiritual chains fragile enough to snap at the right moment. His efforts weren't limited to the men or those ugly human women. The beautiful women who served as slaves to the settlement's elite were also part of his plan. They, through a series of well-timed distractions and subtle suggestions, had been discreetly replacing the water sources with a potent concoction. This concoction wasn't your average spring water. Lin Fei had mixed in a potent blend of holy water, rumored to weaken demonic entities, and a rare extract from the divine phoenix, a legendary creature whose very essence countered darkness. The Shadow Spawn, weakened by this insidious mix, were experiencing a gnawing pain in their very souls. The stage was set. All that was missing was the final act. Lin Fei, with a mischievous glint in his eye, unleashed the prearranged signal, a burst of vibrant sacred flames erupting within the settlement, accompanied by the thunderous crackle of holy lightning ripping through the sky. This was the cue. The human slaves, empowered by Lin Fei's weakened chains and imbued with a newfound strength from the holy water, surged forward. The beautiful women, their former captors watching in stunned surprise, activated the array formation Lin Fei had meticulously planned. With a flash of blinding light, a dome of shimmering energy descended upon the settlement. This wasn't your average defensive barrier, it was a marvel of spiritual engineering, Lin Fei's creation named the Divine Purification Array. The array served a dual purpose. It channeled divine energy, creating a field that sapped the strength of any demon trapped within. Simultaneously, it amplified the human's own spiritual reserves, turning them into formidable warriors within the confines of the dome. The Shadow Spawn devils, weakened by Lin Fei's schemes and further hampered by the divine energy, were caught completely off guard. The settlement erupted in chaos. The once oppressed humans, fueled by years of pent-up anger and newfound strength, fought with a ferocity that surprised even themselves. The screams of the Shadow Spawn echoed through the settlement as they were overpowered and subdued by the very slaves they had once held captive. This small uprising, a spark ignited by Lin Fei, was just the beginning of something much larger. The Divine Purification Array pulsed with golden light, a stark contrast to the screams that filled the settlement. Despite their weakened state, the Shadow Spawn devils fought back with a desperate ferocity. Years of dominance wouldn't be relinquished easily. The human slaves, for all their righteous fury, lacked the experience and cultivation necessary to truly overpower their demonic captors. Decades of suppression had taken their toll, leaving them physically and spiritually weaker. Among the humans, a burly man named Bao Wei swung his makeshift wooden club with surprising agility, connecting with a shadow spawn's jaw with a sickening crack. Li Xiaoying, a young woman with eyes that blazed with defiance, dodged a swipe of claws and landed a precise kick to her opponent's chest, sending him sprawling. But for every victory, there was a setback. An older man, Chen Guang, fell with a scream, a shadow spawn's claws ripping through his makeshift armor. Panic threatened to engulf the humans, but a booming voice cut through the chaos. "Don't falter. Remember what we are fighting for. Freedom!" It was Lin Fei, his voice ringing with false conviction. He wasn't actively participating in the fight, a fact that went unnoticed by the emboldened humans. Instead, he was leading a group of beautiful women, their faces a picture of confusion, towards the edge of the array. These women weren't the hardened fighters like Bai Wei or Li Xiaoying. They were the dolls of the elite shadow spawn, their beauty a source of misery rather than empowerment. "It will be all right," Lin Fei reassured them, his voice all sincerity. "You all need to follow me if you want to escape. Since your cultivation is low, you can't help in the fight, so I want you to stay here outside the array formation where you will be safe." The women, blinded by gratitude and the adrenaline of rebellion, readily agreed. They saw Lin Fei as their savior, a beacon of hope in this dark hour. Little did they know, his motives were far from altruistic. Lin Fei's plan was simple, yet devious. He had orchestrated this rebellion not for the sake of human liberation, but for his own twisted desires. The chaos and the struggle were mere distractions, a smokescreen for his true goal to claim these beautiful women for himself. He knew their vulnerability, their desperation for freedom, would make them easy prey. He'd play the hero, the protector, and once they were indebted to him, once they were outside the array's protection, he'd reveal his true colors. As the fight raged within the dome, Lin Fei led the women to a hidden cave he discovered during his exploration of the settlement. Inside, torches cast flickering shadows on the damp walls, creating an unsettling atmosphere. "Stay here," Lin Fei instructed, his voice dropping a touch lower. "I'll go and join the battle against the devils and make sure to return with our fellow humans." The women, exhausted but hopeful, settled down on a makeshift bed of leaves and furs. They were filled with a naive trust towards Lin Fei, completely oblivious to the predator's grin that stretched across his face as he slipped out of the cave. Alone in the darkness, Lin Fei chuckled to himself. "Fools," he muttered. "Freedom? You'll be begging for my protection soon enough when those devils break that array formation and come to this cave. Then, I will coincidentally save you all while risking my life. Kiki, it will be the perfect plan." He had no intention of helping the rebels or defeating the shadow spawn. His only interest lay in exploiting the chaos and turning it to his own advantage. As the rebels within the dome fought for their lives, Lin Fei, the supposed savior, planned his next move: how to manipulate and control these women, turning their gratitude into a twisted form of servitude. Meanwhile, within the divine purification array, the tide of the battle was slowly turning. The human rebels began to push back. Wei Xiong had his makeshift weapon shattered and was pinned down by a hulking shadow spawn devil. Li Xiaoying, witnessing this, let out a cry of despair and charged recklessly towards the attacker. But outside the dome, oblivious to the rebellion's growing momentum, Lin Fei himself for the fight against those devils near that cavern where those beautiful women are hiding. The battle within the settlement raged for a grueling 3 hours. One by one, the human resistance crumbled. Bodies lay strewn on the ground, a chilling reminder of the rebellion's swift demise. The shadow spawn, panting and bloodied but victorious, turned their attention to the pulsating dome of the divine purification array. 2 more hours of focused attacks chipped away at the barrier's integrity. Finally, with a deafening crack, the array shattered, dissolving into shimmering particles of light. upto.dfrm no/v/e/lb I n.co/m. The shadow spawn, now free from its suppressive energy, roared in triumph. Their first order of business, finding any fleeing humans. The shadow spawn emerged from the settlement, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any fleeing rebels. Their search led them to the cavern entrance. A group of devils cautiously ventured inside, expecting to find terrified humans hiding in the shadows. But the cavern was eerily empty. Lin Fei, watching from a concealed vantage point, waited with bated breath. Any moment, he expected screams to erupt from the cavern, prompting his heroic intervention. However, the silence only grew heavier. The devils emerged, shaking their heads. No sign of them, one reported to the leader, a grim expression etched on his face. The cavern's empty. Disbelief warred with panic within Lin Fei. How? Where could they have gone? Their search continued, frustration mounting with each fruitless pursuit. Finally, they moved on, leaving the cavern behind. Lin Fei, unable to contain his curiosity, crept closer. He peered into the darkness, expecting to see the women huddled together, fear etched on their faces. But the cavern was empty. Not a trace of them remained. Panic clawed at Lin Fei's throat. His carefully crafted plan, built on manipulation and opportunism, had crumbled to dust. The women, the key to his twisted desires, had vanished. He had no idea that while he fantasized about playing the hero, a far more powerful force had intervened. Wang Jian, with his mastery of spatial manipulation, had snatched the women away, leaving Lin Fei in the dark. Inside the hidden flying ship, a holographic display flickered to life, casting an ethereal glow across the command center. Wang Jian, flanked by Pavilion Mistress Cui Lan and the other elders, peered intently at the scene unfolding on X-34 star. The observational arrays, fueled by a potent combination of spiritual stones and rare divine stones, projected a realistic image of the aftermath of the rebellion. The devastation was stark. Bodies lay strewn across the settlement, a grim reminder of the brutal struggle. The surviving shadow spawn devils, weary but triumphant, scoured the area for any remaining rebels. A flicker of amusement crossed Wang Jian's lips as he focused on the cavern entrance. He'd witnessed Lin Fei skulking about, waiting for the opportune moment to play his hero. But that moment never came. Suddenly, the holographic display shimmered and shifted. The cavern vanished, replaced by a scene of dazzling light. A dozen women, faces etched with confusion, materialized within the flying ship's hull. The women gasped, bewildered by their sudden relocation. Pavilion Mistress Cui Lan, her expression carefully neutral, stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the Heavenly Jade Pavilion's flying ship," she announced, her voice calm and soothing. A wave of relief washed over the women's faces. The Heavenly Jade Pavilion, a legendary human sect renowned for its dedication to women's rights, was a beacon of hope in this unforgiving cosmos. But their relief was short-lived. They spotted Wang Jian lounging on a magnificent throne, a scowl etched on his face. Men, they knew, were strictly forbidden within the Heavenly Jade Pavilion's domain. "Why is there a man here?" one of them dared to ask. "The Heavenly Jade Pavilion, isn't it for women only?" Cui Lan hesitated, a flicker of discomfort crossing her features. She began, choosing her words carefully, "is a genius array master who aided us in developing this hidden vessel. It was at his request that we intervened in your situation." The women, still wary of Wang Jian's presence, bowed their heads in gratitude. "Thank you for saving us," one spoke, her voice trembling slightly. "We have another request," another chimed in, her eyes pleading. "Please, save Lin Fei as well. He was with us, fighting the shadow spawn devils." Wang Jian scoffed, a sharp, derisive sound. "Fighting, were they? That Lin Fei, he's no hero. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He's a cunning manipulator, driven by selfish desires. The women exchanged confused glances. Lin Fei, the man who risked his life to protect them, a villain? Their skepticism was evident. A glint of amusement flickered in Wang Jian's eyes. He knew a demonstration was necessary. Look, he gestured towards the holographic display, which flickered back to life. The scene unfolded. It showed Lin Fei reassuring them, promising safe passage, and then, leaving. It captured him lurking in the shadows, not joining the fight but waiting for the shadow spawn devils to return. He wasn't aiding the rebels, Wang Jian explained, his voice laced with a hint of satisfaction. He was waiting for the perfect moment to exploit your trust. He planned to be your savior after the devils subdued you, earning your gratitude and affection. The video ended, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. The women watched, their faces a mix of shock and betrayal. The image of the kind, protective Lin Fei shattered, replaced by a cunning opportunist. One by one, the realization dawned upon them. Disgust flickered in their eyes, replacing the hero worship they previously held. Wang Jian's gamble had paid off. He'd successfully exposed Lin Fei's true motives, turning the women against him. He was just going to use us, one of them whispered, her voice trembling. Wang Jian nodded. Precisely. He's a man driven by selfish desires, not noble intentions. Wang Jian leaned back in his throne, a satisfied smirk playing on his lips. The women, their faces flushed with indignation, bowed curtly. Thank you, one of them spoke, her voice laced with a newfound coldness. Thank you for exposing Lin Fei's treachery and protecting us from his disgusting schemes. Wang Jian chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. Think nothing of it, he drawled, his gaze lingering on each woman in turn. Beautiful women like yourselves shouldn't be wasted on the likes of him. Besides, he added, a sly grin spreading across his face, I was starting to find my quarters a tad unattended to. The women's faces contorted in shock. His blatant objectification was a slap in the face after their harrowing experience. They exchanged uneasy glances, a silent plea for support flickering in their eyes. Naturally, their gazes fell upon Pavilion Mistress Cui Lan, the very embodiment of the Heavenly Jade Pavilion's ideals. Surely, she would speak up against this blatant subjugation. But Cui Lan remained silent, her face unreadable. The other elders mirrored her stoicism, their eyes downcast. It was a chilling tableau, the protectors of women offering no resistance to a man's avarice. Disappointment morphed into anger. These women may have been pawns in the Shadow Spawn's game, but they weren't helpless. They glared back at Wang Jian, their defiance a flicker in the oppressive atmosphere. Sensing their resistance, Wang Jian's smile vanished. Don't make this difficult, ladies, he said, his voice clipped. A simple question deserves a simple answer. Will you serve me, or not? The weight of the situation pressed down on them. Submitting to a higher power was nothing new. They'd endured the Shadow Spawn's cruelty, but this felt different. There was a calculated coldness to Wang Jian's actions that left a bitter taste in their mouths. But they were cornered. They had no power, no allies. To survive, they had to bend. Visit novilbin.c/m for the L-test updates. One woman, her voice tight with suppressed anger, stepped forward. We agree to serve you, she conceded, the words scraping raw in her throat. A flicker of satisfaction crossed Wang Jian's face. He'd anticipated their compliance, but the defiance had been in forward. We agree to serve you, she conceded, the words scraping raw in her throat. Unwelcome wrinkle. Still, he'd gotten what he wanted. Excellent, he smirked. Now then, he continued, his voice turning businesslike, before we proceed, there's a formality to address. He produced a series of jade scrolls, each radiating a faint, otherworldly glow. These are eternal slave contracts, he explained. Signing them ensures your complete obedience. The women's hearts hammered in their chests. An eternal contract? It felt like a heavy chain being placed upon them. But they were trapped. With a resigned sigh, each woman stepped forward and signed their names, sealing their servitude. Wang Jian watched with predatory amusement. Now they were truly his. But there was more to it than just control. He had a plan, a way to twist their misfortune into an unexpected gain. As the contracts shimmered with activation, Wang Jian raised his hand, channeling a potent mix of spiritual and divine power. It swirled around him, infused with the essence of the law of purification. The women gasped, a golden light enveloping them. It was a cleansing wave. It purged the remnants of demonic taint left behind by the Shadowspawn's violations. More importantly, it subtly reforged their bodies, restoring them to a state of purity. The violation, the trauma, all of it began to fade. The women, bathed in this unexpected cleansing light, felt a shift within themselves. Their bodies felt lighter, their senses sharper. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a newfound vitality. Their cultivation, previously stunted by demonic influence, began to flourish. They were stronger, healthier, their potential reawakened. Confusion clouded their faces. What was he playing at? Wang Jian's lips curved into a knowing smile. Consider it a little renovation, he explained. Now, he added, his voice taking on a commanding tone, let's get you settled in. You have much to learn about your new duties. The women, still reeling from the unexpected purification, could only follow him, their initial defiance replaced by a wary uncertainty. Wang Jian led them towards a group of luxurious chambers, each one furnished with an eye for comfort and opulence. The women exchanged hesitant glances, unsure of what awaited them. But for now, they were safe, their bodies healed, and their futures, uncertain, yet strangely hopeful. In the meantime, Lin Fei, clueless to the web of deceit he'd been entangled in, stumbled out of the cavern entrance, his heart pounding with a mixture of frustration and worry. The women were gone, vanished without a trace. Panic gnawed at him. His carefully constructed plan, a house of cards built on manipulation, lay in ruins. Suddenly, a chilling presence settled upon him. Shadowspawn devils, a contingent far more formidable than the settlement guards, materialized before him. They emanated a ruthless aura, their eyes glinting with malice. There you are, growled a hulking figure at the front, his voice laced with venomous rage. It was Zarbin's elite guard, dispatched specifically to capture Lin Fei. They had tracked him down using a combination of advanced tracking devices and Lin Fei's own carelessness. Lin Fei, faced with a much more serious threat than he'd anticipated, squared his shoulders. He wasn't about to surrender without a fight. With a defiant roar, he channeled his cultivation power, his divine spirit realm aura erupting outwards. Wang Jian, his initial amusement at Lin Fei's predicament fading, turned his attention away from the holographic display. The human cultivator's fate was no longer his concern. Instead, he issued a crisp command to Pavilion Mistress Cui Lan. Set course for the next cluster, he instructed, his voice firm. Cui Lan, ever the obedient subordinate, acknowledged his order with a curt nod. The hidden flying ship, responding to her silent commands, hummed to life. The powerful thrusters engaged, propelling the vessel away from the orbit of the X-34 star and towards a new destination. Wang Jian leaned back in his throne, a thoughtful expression etching his features. The Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe could wait. His immediate priority lay elsewhere, finding Yu Qing. This time, however, the arrays weren't searching for signs of conflict or hidden settlements. Wang Jian's objective was far more specific. He sought a faint echo, a trace of blood essence, his own blood essence, to be precise. The connection was subtle, a remnant left behind during the body reforging ritual he'd performed on Yu Qing. It was a gamble, but one he was willing to take. Days turned into weeks as the flying ship traversed the vast expanse of the ancient Devil Star cluster. Wang Jian monitored the incessant data streams from the observational arrays. Each negative result gnawed at his patience. LL new rise at N0V/LBI/.cm. Then, a flicker. A faint anomaly registered on the array, a trace of blood essence matching his own signature. A surge of excitement coursed through him. Yu Qing. She was here, nestled within the heart of the ancient Devil Stars. A cluster renowned for its powerful devil races, known for their ruthlessness and territoriality. He frowned, a wrinkle creasing his brow. Why choose such a dangerous location? Was Yu Qing oblivious to the potential dangers? Here, she was a target, vulnerable to capture or worse. The devils, with their vast numbers, formidable techniques, and potent artifacts, could overpower her with sheer brute force. Or, they might employ more intricate tactics, capturing her with cunning formations or offering her enticing treasures to lure her in. Ultimately, they'd likely seek to sell her to powerful star lords, fetching a hefty price for such a unique specimen. The thought of his creation, his perfect being, falling into the clutches of such barbarians filled him with a cold fury. He wouldn't allow it. He'd retrieve Yu Qing, not out of any sense of compassion, but because she was his property, a valuable asset he wouldn't let go to waste. Plot a course for that star, he commanded, his voice steely with resolve. We're going in. Cui Lan hesitated, a flicker of concern flitting across her eyes. Master Wang, she began, her voice barely a whisper. The devils in the heart of the ancient Devil Stars, they're not to be trifled with. Perhaps a more diplomatic approach. Wang Jian cut her off with a sharp glare. Silence, Cui Lan. I make the decisions here. Prepare the ship for battle. We're going in. Cui Lan's eyes widened in alarm. But young master, the risk dash. There's no other option, he interrupted, his voice leaving no room for argument. We find Yu Qing, and we find her safely. A tense silence descended upon the command center. The elders exchanged worried glances. They knew the dangers of venturing into the heart of devil territory. But they also knew the unwavering determination in their young master's eyes. With a heavy sigh, Cui Lan bowed her head. As you command, young Master Wang. The ship lurched forward once more, cloaked in its invisibility shield, a lone vessel venturing into the heart of the storm. Wang Jian, his gaze fixed on the approaching cluster, felt a surge of conflicting emotions, fear for Yu Qing's safety, anger at the devils who dared threaten her, and a steely resolve to see this mission through, no matter the cost. Cui Lan, cowed by his icy demeanor, bowed her head in submission. She knew better than to argue. Wang Jian, though enigmatic, held absolute power within the heavenly jade pavilion. His word was law. The hidden flying ship, cloaked in its invisibility shield, plunged deeper into the treacherous territory of the ancient Devil Stars. The mission to retrieve Yu Qing had taken an unexpected turn. Unbeknownst to Wang Jian, Yu Qing wasn't languishing in fear within the heart of the ancient Devil Stars. She was on a mission of her own, a mission that placed her right under the noses of the very devils she hated. Her chosen haven? A star controlled by the infernal Stellar Smith tribe, a devilish powerhouse renowned for crafting weapons and formations used by countless devil races. Yu Qing wasn't there for sightseeing. She had a singular, audacious goal, to steal a weapon. Not just any weapon, mind you, but a blade forged from the very core of a specific star, the Scarlet Slaughtering Star. This star held a deep significance for Yu Qing. It was the source of her power as the Scarlet Star slaughtering goddess. Since her return to the divine world, a nagging frustration had gnawed at her. She couldn't fully access the might of her legacy. The reason, she recently discovered, lay with the infernal stellar smiths. They had, in a blatant display of arrogance, shattered her Scarlet Slaughtering Star, reforging its core into a formidable sword. And now, this weapon lay dormant within one of their heavily guarded settlements. Obtaining the sword was paramount. To reclaim her full potential, even surpass it, she needed its essence. But there was a snag. Despite her connection to the star's core, Yu Qing couldn't sense it. The infernal stellar smith tribe, it seemed, had taken precautions. They'd either weakened or cleverly concealed the link, leaving her blind within their own stronghold. Frustration gnawed at her. Days bled into weeks as she scoured the settlement, her celestial senses stretched thin. Yet, the sword remained frustratingly elusive. She needed a new plan, a way to bypass their defenses, to locate the stolen heart of her power. The cloaked flying ship sliced through the inky void, nearing its destination. Wang Jian, his gaze fixed on the approaching star, felt a flicker of satisfaction. The faint echo of his blood essence had led them here, straight to Yu Qing. Little did she know, a storm was brewing on the horizon. Unaware of Wang Jian's approach, Yu Qing continued her desperate search, her frustration mounting with each passing day. The infernal stellar smith tribe had played their cards well, leaving her powerless and adrift. Suddenly, a tremor ran through the ship. The celestial alarms blared, red lights flashing ominously. Even cloaked, their arrival hadn't gone unnoticed. Wang Jian, a frown creasing his brow, scanned the data stream. "Atmospheric scans," he muttered. "Looks like they have a pretty tight defense grid." The beautiful women, recently recruited maids, huddled together, their eyes wide with fear. Even the seasoned elders of the Heavenly Jade Pavilion exchanged nervous glances. Wang Jian, however, remained unfazed. A smirk played on his lips. "Nothing we can't handle. Activate the concealment and illusion arrays." With a whirring of machinery, the ship's advanced systems hummed to life. Wang Jian, a master of formations himself, had anticipated such defenses. The ship's cloaking technology shifted, morphing its appearance to blend seamlessly with the surrounding celestial bodies. The alarms fell silent. Relief washed over the women, though a flicker of unease lingered. They were about to embark on a clandestine mission into the heart of a devil-controlled star, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Wang Jian, his eyes gleaming with a mix of anticipation and amusement, steered the ship downwards. Penetrating the atmosphere, they slipped past the unsuspecting devils, their hidden presence a ghost in the machine. The infernal stellar smith tribe remained blissfully unaware of the intruder in their midst. Wang Jian, utilizing a pinpoint reading of the blood essence connection, steered them towards the precise location of Yu Qing. With a silent command, the ship settled into a hidden alcove, its concealment protocols humming discreetly. Wang Jian, a predatory glint in his eyes, stepped off the boarding ramp. He made no attempt to conceal his aura, letting it flare outwards like a beacon. Hidden amongst the labyrinthine corridors of the city, Yu Qing froze in her tracks. A familiar presence, a tug at the very core of her being, ripped through her senses. It couldn't be. She whirled around, her gaze darting towards the sky. And there he was, Wang Jian, flying high above the city. Shock and disbelief painted her face. This wasn't supposed to happen. He was the last person she expected to see, especially here, in the heart of enemy territory. A torrent of emotions flooded her, confusion, anger, a flicker of something she couldn't quite place. But most of all, an undeniable pull towards him. The red thread of fate, that unseen bond he'd woven around her soul, seemed to thrum with renewed purpose. "Jian," she cried out, her voice echoing through the metallic canyons. "What are you doing here? You shouldn't have come." Her words, laced with a hint of something akin to care? It amused him. He descended slowly, a sardonic smile gracing his lips. Well, Chinger," he drawled. "Look who it is. Didn't think you'd be so happy to see me." "This doesn't concern you," she hissed, her voice hardening. "Leave. Now. This is a fight I have to face alone." "Alone?" He chuckled, a low rumble that sent shivers down her spine. "Hardly. Consider me your unexpected reinforcement." Yu Qing gritted her teeth. "I don't need your help. You'll just get yourself killed." He landed beside her, their gazes locking. "Don't underestimate me, Chinger." Besides, he leaned in, his voice a husky whisper, "Wouldn't you be a little heartbroken if something happened to me?" His words, laced with a double meaning, caused a blush to creep up her cheeks. This wasn't the time for such frivolity. They were in the heart of danger, surrounded by potential enemies. Yet, his audacity, his very presence, unsettled her more than she cared to admit. Ignoring the fluttering in her chest, she glared at him. "Don't get cocky, Jian. This isn't some game. These devils are ruthless." And besides, she lowered her voice, a hint of desperation creeping in, "How did you even find me?" "Let's just say," he winked, "I have my ways." He wouldn't reveal his blood essence connection, not yet. It served as his trump card. "Chinger," Wang Jian drawled, amusement dancing in his eyes. "What brings you to this delightful corner of the cosmos?" Yu Qing, her anger momentarily eclipsed by confusion, let out a frustrated sigh. "Jian, this is no time for jokes. You need to leave, now. This city is crawling with devils, and they're not exactly known for their hospitality." "Oh, I see," Wang Jian smirked. "So, you're not here for a friendly visit to some devils?" Yu Qing gritted her teeth. "This isn't about pleasantries, Jian. There's a weapon here, a sword reforged from the core of my power source." Her voice trailed off, a flicker of vulnerability crossing her face. Wang Jian raised an eyebrow, a flicker of genuine interest replacing his amusement. "A weapon forged from your power source, you say? Tell me more, Chinger." Thus, Yu Qing launched into a hurried explanation. She spoke of the Scarlet Slaughtering Star, her legacy as a goddess, and the discovery that the infernal Stellar Smith tribe had somehow acquired the star's core and reforged it into a sword. "Months I've spent here, searching in the shadows," she confessed, frustration lacing her voice. "But there's been no trace of it. No rumors, no whispers. Perhaps they took it to another star." Wang Jian pondered this for a moment, his eyes gleaming with a cunning glint. "Perhaps," he conceded, "but perhaps there's another way." "Another way?" Yu Qing echoed, a sliver of hope flickering within her. "We draw them out," Wang Jian declared, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. "We create such a commotion they'll have no choice but to reveal their hand. How about, we destroy this entire star?" Diascover dated novels on NOV/E/Lbin.co. Yu Qing's eyes widened. "Destroy the star? Are you insane?" "Not insane," Wang Jian countered, "just pragmatic. When the infernal Stellar Smith tribe scrambles to evacuate their precious treasures, that's when we strike. We snatch the sword amidst the chaos." Yu Qing, however, wasn't convinced. "Destroying a star is easier said than done, Jian. These devils have formidable defenses. Layers upon layers of formations crisscross this entire star, with many settlements monitoring the important weak spots of this star, not to mention powerful devil warriors that are present in each settlement. Ah, but Qinger, Wang Jian chuckled, a hint of pride in his voice, there's one thing I'm particularly good at, stealth. They won't even know I'm there until it's too late. To make his point, he raised a hand, and a wave of darkness pulsed outwards. Shadows materialized around them, engulfing them in an inky cloak. When the shadows receded, Yuqing found herself in a different part of the city, far from where they'd been hovering moments before. She gaped at her surroundings. They stood near a towering structure, pulsating with an ethereal glow, the city's power core. Here, earth veins and celestial veins converged, feeding energy into a colossal formation array that hummed with power. A shiver ran down Yuqing's spine. They were deep within the city's heart, right under the noses of the devilish guards, and yet, they remained undetected. Wang Jian had infiltrated this heavily guarded area with such ease, it bordered on the impossible. See, Qinger? Wang Jian's voice echoed in the shadows beside her. They haven't a clue I'm here. Now, let's get to work. Yuqing stared at Wang Jian, her initial shock morphing into a hesitant smile. Not bad, Jian. I have to admit, I underestimated the depth of your understanding after merging with that planet containing the, what was it called again, the Sky Marshal continent? Wang Jian chuckled, a hint of pride in his voice. Indeed. That world broadened my horizons in more ways than one. Especially when it comes to the intricate workings of formations and the manipulation of natural energies. But destroying a star, Yuqing countered, her expression turning serious. That's a monumental task. Even with your stealth, simply reaching the power core of each settlement is one thing. But how do we siphon their very lifeblood, the essence of the earth and heaven veins that power their formations? She raised a finger, her brow furrowing. The sheer magnitude of that energy, it couldn't be contained in any storage artifact we possess. It's simply too potent. A thoughtful gleam entered Wang Jian's eyes. He wasn't oblivious to the challenge Yuqing presented. This wasn't a simple smash-and-grab operation. Destroying a star required finesse and a thorough grasp of celestial mechanics. You're absolutely right, Qinger, he conceded. Stealing the entire power source is not only impractical, but near impossible. But what if we redirected it? Yuqing's brow shot up. Redirected? Precisely, Wang Jian affirmed, a mischievous glint returning to his eyes. We don't need to steal the power, we simply need to reroute it. Think of it like diverting a river's flow. He gestured towards the pulsating power core. See this grand formation array? It acts as the heart of the city, drawing upon the earth and heaven veins to fuel its various functions. Now, what if we added another layer, a carefully constructed subarray? Intrigue sparked in Yuqing's eyes. She grasped his meaning. This subarray would then siphon off a portion of the energy, directing it elsewhere? Exactly, Wang Jian confirmed with a satisfied nod. Think of it as a parasite, slowly draining the lifeblood of the star without them even realizing it. And the redirected energy? Yuqing pressed, her mind racing with the possibilities. Ah, that's the beauty of it, Wang Jian said, a hint of theatricality in his voice. That energy will flow to a separate array, one I'll set up elsewhere, a convergence point, if you will. Yuqing understood now. Wang Jian envisioned a series of these subarrays, strategically placed throughout the infernal stellar Smith tribe settlements. Each one would act as a silent leech, slowly draining the star's power. And this convergence point? She queried. That's where the true destruction happens, Wang Jian revealed, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. There, I'll unleash the accumulated energy, triggering a chain reaction that tears the star apart from within. Yu Qing had to admit, a twisted sense of admiration bubbled up within her. While audacious and undoubtedly risky, Wang Jian's plan had merit. It bypassed the need for brute force and played to his strengths, stealth and formation manipulation. This might actually work, Jian, she acknowledged, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. But we need to be swift and precise. The infernal stellar Smith tribe are no fools. They'll notice the disruptions in their formations eventually. Wang Jian's grin widened. The key to this entire operation, Qinger, is subtlety. We need to add our subarray without raising any alarms. That means perfect camouflage. He tapped a finger thoughtfully against his chin. The sub-array's formation disk needs to be virtually invisible. Not only in its energy signature, but also in its physical form. It needs to appear identical to the existing disks within the grand array. Yu Qing's eyes narrowed. Essentially, you're suggesting we forge a replica formation disk. And to do that flawlessly, we'll need the exact materials the infernal stellar Smith tribe used. Bingo, Wang Jian snapped his fingers. So, our first step involves a little borrowing. With a flourish, he shrouded them both in a cloak of shadows. The power core pulsed behind them, oblivious to the two figures who had just hatched a plan to dismantle its very existence. Emerging from the shadows in a deserted alleyway, Yu Qing raised an eyebrow. So, where do we find these special materials? Logic dictates they wouldn't keep them scattered around town, Wang Jian mused, stroking his chin. Most likely, a heavily guarded central storage facility. We need to find the biggest vault in the settlement. Yu Qing, ever the pragmatist, pointed towards a colossal structure in the distance. Its imposing walls gleamed under the twin moons, and demonic sigils pulsed with a faint red glow. Looks like our shopping spree just got a whole lot more interesting, she remarked, a hint of amusement dancing in her eyes. Wang Jian chuckled. Indeed. Though subtlety seems to be a lost art on these devils. Who needs subtlety when you have brute intimidation, right? They weave through the bustling night market, a kaleidoscope of sights and smells assaulting their senses. Devils of various shapes and sizes haggled over wares, their guttural voices a constant thrum in the background. Reaching the outskirts of the market, they were met with a wall of burly devil guards. Each one radiated a formidable aura, their eyes glowing with a malevolent red light. Well, this is delightful, Yu Qing muttered, her hand hovering near the hilt of her celestial sword. Wang Jian, however, simply smirked. Leave this to me, Qinger. He raised a hand, and a wave of darkness rippled outwards. The shadows writhed and contorted, morphing into a pair of identical devil guards, complete with the telltale red glow in their eyes. Yu Qing's jaw dropped as the shadow duplicates marched towards the real guards, engaging them in a conversation that sounded suspiciously like a heated debate on the merits of a particular brand of demon fire whiskey. Seizing the opportunity, the real Wang Jian and Yu Qing slipped past the bewildered guards, their forms a mere whisper in the night. They navigated a labyrinth of corridors, their senses stretched thin, until they reached a colossal metal door, fortified with intricate demonic runes. Looks like this is it, Wang Jian murmured, tracing the runes with a finger. These wards are child's play compared to some I've encountered. With practiced ease, he weaved his fingers, his celestial energy thrumming. The runes flickered and died, the door groaning open with a rusty sigh. A wave of heat and the metallic tang of raw materials washed over them as they entered the vault. Mountains of precious metals, glowing stones, and exotic flora overflowed from shelves, each item radiating potent celestial energy. Wow, Yu Qing breathed, her eyes widening at the sheer scale of the infernal stellar Smith tribe's hoard. It's like a treasure trove for a celestial blacksmith. Wang Jian, however, ignored the glittering riches, his gaze scanning for the specific materials they needed. He spotted a section stacked high with shimmering silver plates, each etched with intricate patterns. "There," he announced, pointing towards the stack. "Those are celestial silver discs. The perfect base for a replica formation disc." Carefully, they selected a handful of discs, ensuring they wouldn't raise suspicion by taking too much. As they were about to leave, a guttural voice boomed from the entrance. "Halt! Who dares trespass in the infernal treasury?" A hulking figure, easily twice the size of a normal devil, stood framed in the doorway. His obsidian skin was etched with crimson tattoos, and his eyes burned with barely contained rage. Yu Qing's hand instinctively tightened around her sword hilt. It seemed their shopping spree had been cut short. Wang Jian's hand rested reassuringly on Yu Qing's shoulder, a silent plea for calmness. Turning towards the hulking devil guard, he assessed the situation with practiced ease. This was no high-ranking devil, merely a hired hand judging by his mismatched armor and relatively weak celestial aura. A smirk played on Wang Jian's lips. This wouldn't be too difficult. With a subtle shift in his energy signature, Wang Jian unleashed a hint of his Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Tribe bloodline power. It was a faint echo, enough to be recognized by a discerning eye, but not enough to overpower the guard. The effect was instantaneous. The devil guard's eyes widened in surprise. The Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Tribe, known for their deceptive prowess and human-like appearances, weren't a common sight in these parts. "Greetings, fellow devil," Wang Jian rumbled in a low voice, mimicking the guttural tones the guard favored. "I am here on behalf of a mutual agreement between my tribe and your esteemed lord. He requested a specific shipment of formation discs, and I've come to collect them." The guard's massive chest rumbled with a deep breath. "A shipment? From the lord himself?" "Indeed," Wang Jian affirmed, injecting a hint of authority into his voice. "He mentioned the urgency of the matter. Perhaps you could confirm with him directly, if you have any doubts." Doubt flickered across the guard's face, then faded. The Blue Moon Eclipse Tribe wasn't a force to trifle with. He dipped his head in a show of respect. "My apologies, esteemed guest. I wouldn't dare question your orders." His gaze, however, lingered on Yu Qing. A human woman accompanying a devil? And this, human? The guard's voice boomed. Wang Jian offered a casual explanation. "This is merely my servant. She accompanies me on all my travels." Yu Qing, momentarily flustered by the unexpected label, managed to keep her face impassive. She knew this was no time to argue. A single outburst could shatter their carefully constructed charade. Fortunately, the guard seemed to accept the explanation, as it was unusual, but not unheard of. Some blue moon eclipses did have peculiar tastes. Soon, his initial suspicion faded. With a curt nod, he mumbled a begrudging apology and lumbered away, leaving the vault open behind him. Relief washed over Yu Qing as the guard disappeared around a corner. "That was a close call, Jian," she whispered, a hint of exasperation lacing her voice. Wang Jian chuckled, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "All part of the game, Qinger. Now, let's gather what we need and get out of here before someone with sharper eyes decides to pay us a visit." With renewed urgency, they moved through the vault, selecting a handful of celestial silver discs. These would form the base for the replica formation disc, the key to their audacious plan. Visit en Velben. cm for EU ovals. With a sigh of relief, they melted back into the shadows, leaving the oblivious guard behind. It wouldn't be until several hours later, upon inventory, that the missing celestial silver discs would be discovered. Meanwhile, Wang Jian and Yu Qing found themselves in a secluded cavern, far from the bustling city. The cavern pulsed with a faint geothermal energy, providing the perfect environment for Wang Jian's work. He carefully arranged the stolen celestial silver discs, his celestial energy thrumming as he began the intricate process of inscribing the formation patterns. The air crackled with power as he channeled his understanding of celestial mechanics, weaving a complex web of lines and symbols onto the silver discs. "This is some intricate work," Jian, Yu Qing commented, watching him with fascination. "Those patterns are unlike anything I've ever seen." Wang Jian, focused on his task, replied without looking up. "These are a special type of formation, designed to siphon and redirect energy. It's a delicate process, requiring a deep understanding of both celestial energy flow and the workings of earth and heaven veins." He paused, a mischievous glint entering his eyes. "Of course, it also requires a certain touch, wouldn't you say?" Yu Qing couldn't help but smile at his playful jab. Despite the seriousness of their mission, she appreciated his ability to lighten the mood. Hours bled into night as Wang Jian meticulously inscribed the discs. Finally, with a flourish, he completed the final inscription. A soft hum resonated from the discs, a testament to the power harnessed within them. They were now ready to be deployed, the first steps towards their audacious plan to dismantle an entire star. With a satisfied grin, Wang Jian carefully stored the inscribed celestial silver discs. They pulsed with a faint celestial glow, each one was a silent testament to the power they held. It was time to put them to work. He raised a hand, and a wave of darkness engulfed them both. In the blink of an eye, they were no longer in the secluded cavern but back within the pulsating heart of the city, the power core chamber. Wang Jian wasted no time. He retrieved the inscribed celestial silver discs, their smooth surfaces shimmering with a faint inner light. With practiced ease, he began the process of integrating them into the existing formation array. His movements were a blur of practiced grace, each step precise and deliberate. It was a delicate operation, akin to performing intricate surgery on a live being. Any misstep, any misplaced inscription, could trigger unforeseen consequences. But Wang Jian moved with the confidence of a master artist, his understanding of formations bordering on the intuitive. He seamlessly merged his subarray with the existing structure, ensuring it remained virtually invisible, a silent parasite nestled within the grand design. Yu Qing, watching him work, couldn't help but be impressed. "You truly are a genius, Jian," she admitted, a hint of awe in her voice. "Your knowledge of formations is unparalleled. And that daring streak of yours, it's terrifying, yet undeniably effective." She chuckled softly. "Never thought the mortal I met on that quaint little continent called Sky Marshal would become a being capable of dismantling a star belonging to one of the most formidable devil tribes, the Infernal Stellar Smiths." Wang Jian winked at her, his playful demeanor returning. "Oh, Qinger, this is just the beginning. You haven't seen anything yet." With a final flourish, he completed the integration. The sub-array pulsed subtly, a silent siphon drawing off a minuscule portion of the vast energy coursing through the grand formation. It was a trickle now, but over time, it would become a torrent. "Let's get out of here," Wang Jian murmured. Before Yu Qing could respond, he enveloped them both in shadows once more. The chamber fell silent, the only evidence of their intrusion the faint hum of the newly integrated formation discs, a silent harbinger of the chaos to come. They reappeared in a deserted alleyway, the bustling night market a mere stone's throw away. The city lights shimmered, oblivious to the potential threat lurking within its walls. "So," Yu Qing said, a thoughtful look on her face, "what's next?" "We need to replicate this process in every major settlement of the Infernal Stellar Smith tribe on the star, right?" "Precisely," Wang Jian confirmed. "The more subarrays we set up, the faster we can drain the star's energy. But we need to be strategic. We can't overwhelm the system all at once. So, we prioritize settlements based on their proximity to the power core," Yu Qing mused, tapping her chin. The closer they are, the more energy they siphon, creating a domino effect as we move outwards. Exactly, Wang Jian snapped his fingers. We'll need to map out a route, ensuring we remain undetected. Stealth is key, Chinger. We can't afford to alert them until it's too late. A mischievous grin spread across his face. Imagine the look on their faces when they realize their entire star is on the verge of collapse, and they have no idea why. Yu Qing couldn't help but smile at his enthusiasm. This audacious plan, while dangerous, held the potential for a spectacular victory. Destroying a star wasn't something most cultivators could even dream of. But with Wang Jian's unorthodox methods and her own formidable power, it seemed within reach. All right, Jian, she announced, her voice laced with determination. Let's get to work. We have a star to dismantle. With a shared look of purpose, they set off into the night, two figures shrouded in shadows, embarking on a mission that could reshape the very fabric of the ancient devil stars. Days blended into weeks as Wang Jian and Yu Qing embarked on a whirlwind tour of the infernal stellar Smith tribe settlements. They became shadows in the night, flitting from city to city, meticulously integrating their replica formation disks into the unsuspecting hearts of each central power array. With every completed settlement, their confidence grew. The audacious plan, once a glimmer of hope, began to feel like a tangible reality. However, unbeknownst to them, a ripple of unease had begun to stir within the infernal stellar Smith tribe. In the bustling settlement of Ironscale Forge, nestled deep within the heart of the infernal stellar Smith territory, a master forge devil named Volker, renowned for his meticulous craftsmanship, stood before the central grand power array formation. A frown creased his brow as he traced the intricate energy flow channels with a calloused finger. A deep sense of disquiet settled in his gut. Something was amiss. As Volker traced the familiar lines of energy flow, he felt a disconcerting emptiness. His signature, a subtle twist in the pattern, had vanished. Intrigued, Volker delved deeper, his brow furrowing further. His inspection revealed a shocking discovery. Nestled beneath the existing formation, like a parasite clinging to its host, lay another array, a foreign and unfamiliar one. This additional array, crafted with an impressive degree of finesse, was siphoning off a portion of the energy flowing through the earth vein and heaven vein. But it was currently inactive, a dormant predator waiting for its moment to strike. A shiver ran down Volker's spine. This was no random anomaly. This was deliberate sabotage, a calculated attempt to disrupt the very lifeblood of Ironscale Forge settlement. The question that burned in his mind was why? Who would dare tamper with the core of their energy supply? And where was this stolen energy being directed? He spent the next several hours dissecting the foreign array, his frustration mounting with each passing moment. The craftsmanship was impressive, but the purpose remained a mystery. The array, designed to redirect energy, offered no clues about its ultimate destination. Despite the lack of answers, one thing was clear: this was a threat that couldn't be ignored. Volker knew he needed to alert the leadership, but the implications were daunting. He mulled over his options, a storm brewing within him. Finally, he decided on a course of action. He wouldn't raise an immediate alarm, but he would discreetly inform a select few, those he trusted implicitly. Together, they would investigate further, gather evidence, and then present their findings to the leadership. Little did Wang Jian and Yu Qing know, their meticulously planned operation had snagged on an unexpected snag. A lone devil, meticulous and observant, had seen through the veil of concealed tactic. Days blurred into weeks as Wang Jian and Yu Qing weaved their web of deceit. Each infiltration was a thrill, a test of their combined skills. Wang Jian, a master of stealth, navigated the heavily guarded settlements like a phantom. Yu Qing, ever vigilant, provided backup, her celestial energy a potent deterrent against any unforeseen encounters. The sourc of this content N/O/V/L/N. Their routine became clockwork. Infiltrate, modify, vanish. Each settlement saw the same seamless integration of the celestial silver disks, each leech silently siphoning a portion of the star's lifeblood. Their confidence soared with each completed settlement. 30 settlements completed, then 40. The intricate network of subarrays stretched across the star's surface, a silent serpent slowly constricting its prey. Meanwhile, within the infernal stellar smith tribe, a different kind of storm brewed. Volker, the array grandmaster of Ironscale Forge, shared his unsettling discovery with a select few, trusted colleagues holding prominent positions in other settlements. Zerga, the stoic elder of Blackrock Quarry, listened intently, his obsidian beard twitching with suspicion. Zal, the fiery overseer of Molten River, bristled with indignation. Dracos, the cunning foreman of Cinder Peak, narrowed his eyes, his mind already calculating possibilities. They formed a clandestine group, united by a shared sense of unease. Volker detailed his findings, the foreign array, and his inability to decipher its purpose. The air crackled with tension as they grappled with the implications. "This is a threat of the highest order," Zerga rumbled, his voice deep as an earthquake. "But who would dare attack us in such a manner?" "Perhaps a rival tribe, seeking to weaken us before a strike," Zal suggested, her voice laced with fiery defiance. Dracos shook his head. "No, the precision of the attack, it suggests someone familiar with our systems, someone who can move unseen." A chilling silence descended upon them. The realization struck them all at once, a traitor in their midst. Thus began their own covert investigation. Each member, leveraging their positions within their respective settlements, discreetly examined their central grand power array formations. They searched for any anomalies, any telltale signs of tampering. The weeks that followed were a tense dance of subterfuge. Wang Jian and Yu Qing continued their relentless march, their final objective drawing closer. Volker's team, driven by a growing sense of urgency, meticulously scanned each array, their findings painting a grim picture. Every settlement they examined, save Ironscale Forge, bore the mark of the foreign array. The evidence was irrefutable, a coordinated, multi-pronged attack was underway, its ultimate goal shrouded in mystery. Finally, after weeks of tireless work, Wang Jian and Yu Qing reached their final destination. A desolate valley, far removed from the bustling infernal stellar smith settlements, lay sprawled before them. It was here, in this barren expanse, that they would unleash the culmination of their plan. Wang Jian withdrew a series of intricate formation disks, far more complex than the ones he had used previously. These were the heart of the power convergence array, the ultimate recipient of the stolen energy. He carefully arranged the disks in a specific pattern, channeling his celestial energy to activate their intricate designs. Lines of power pulsed between the disks, forming a web of shimmering blue light. Soon, the barren valley crackled with an otherworldly energy, a beacon waiting to be filled. "It's beautiful, in its own destructive way," Yu Qing remarked, gazing at the completed array with a mix of apprehension and anticipation. "Indeed," Wang Jian replied, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "Now, the real game begins." Days bled into weeks as the convergence array pulsed with a steadily increasing power. The stolen energy, ripped from the heart of the infernal stellar smith star, thrummed within the intricate formations. It was a monstrous transformation, twisting the lifeblood of the celestial body into a weapon of immense destruction. Within the array, the stolen essence crackled and writhed, condensed into a single, concentrated beam of raw power. This devilish mixture was a fusion of earth vein and heaven vein energies, and it was aimed directly at the star's core, a silent harbinger of its impending doom. The process was slow, agonizingly so. Each passing hour brought the star one step closer to its demise. Wang Jian and Yu Qing remained vigil, a tense anticipation hanging heavy in the air. Their audacious plan was finally reaching its climax, and the outcome remained uncertain. One bleak morning, a ripple of disturbance broke the silence. Wang Jian, his senses finely tuned, raised a hand to silence Yu Qing. A group of devils, their presences unmistakable, were approaching the desolate valley. A surge of adrenaline coursed through them. They had been discovered, their meticulous plan exposed. Panic threatened to overwhelm Yu Qing, but Wang Jian's voice, calm and measured, cut through her fear. "Don't panic, Qinger," he said, his eyes narrowed. "They're not the elite guard. Just a scouting party." He gestured towards a nearby rock formation, a natural crevice that offered a perfect hiding spot. With practiced efficiency, they retreated into the shadows, watching as the devils materialized in the valley. There were 5 of them, all seasoned warriors with the distinctive markings of the infernal Stellar Smith tribe. Their expressions were grim, etched with a mixture of confusion and growing apprehension. They moved with a practiced caution, their celestial energy crackling at their fingertips. It was clear they sensed something amiss, a disruption in the natural flow of power within the star. As they approached the pulsating convergence array, a low hum resonated from the ground beneath their feet. Their eyes widened in recognition. They weren't fools, they understood the purpose of the strange formation and the devastating energy it channeled. "Someone," one of the devils growled, his voice laced with fury, "is tampering with the star's core. We need to report this back to the elders immediately," another shouted, his voice tight with urgency. But before they could turn to leave, a voice, cold and menacing, echoed across the valley. "Going somewhere so soon, gentlemen?" Wang Jian and Yu Qing stepped out of the shadows, their faces etched with a dangerous calm. The devils whirled around, their eyes widening in shock. They recognized the telltale signs of a blue moon eclipse devil on Wang Jian, but the human beside him was a surprise. "Who are you?" the leader of the group demanded, his voice trembling slightly despite his bravado. A cruel smile played on Wang Jian's lips. "Call me, the harbinger of your demise." The devils exchanged panicked glances. But the infernal Stellar Smith tribe didn't shy away from a fight. With a guttural battle cry, they charged. The ensuing battle was swift and brutal. Yu Qing, a whirlwind of celestial energy, carved through the devils with her signature swordsmanship. Wang Jian, a master of deception and shadow manipulation, danced around his opponents, his attacks precise and deadly. Within minutes, the valley floor was littered with the fallen. The once proud devils lay lifeless, their expressions frozen in a mask of disbelief. As the dust settled, Wang Jian surveyed the carnage, a hint of grim satisfaction playing on his face. "That takes care of the immediate threat," he murmured, turning to Yu Qing. "But the real battle is yet to come," she said, her voice laced with concern. "They'll know soon enough what we've done. We need to act fast." Wang Jian nodded, his gaze fixed on the pulsating convergence array. The energy flow was nearing its peak. The star's core was on the verge of implosion. "Indeed," he said, his voice filled with steely resolve. While Wang Jian and Yu Qing battled and bided their time, a storm of a different kind brewed within the infernal Stellar Smith tribe. Volker and his team, their suspicions simmering with each passing day, had finally stumbled upon a piece of the puzzle. The once dormant foreign arrays integrated into the central grand power array formations had sprung to life. This wasn't a localized phenomenon, it was happening in every settlement across the star. Alarm bells started ringing in Volker's mind. This wasn't a coincidence, it was a coordinated attack. He, along with Zerga, Zhao, and Dracos, rushed to report their findings to the High Council, a group of powerful devils who oversaw the tribe's affairs. Yet, their urgency was met with skepticism. "Are you suggesting someone is siphoning energy from our very lifeblood?" scoffed Lord Groth, the imposing leader of the council. "Preposterous. We have defenses against such blatant theft." Zerga countered, "But the evidence is undeniable, Lord Groth. The energy flow." Lord Groth waved a dismissive hand. Perhaps a malfunction. Perhaps a temporary fluctuation. We shall send investigators, but I suspect this is a mountain out of a molehill. Volker, frustrated but undeterred, pressed on. This is a serious matter, my lord. We're talking about the very essence of our star being stolen. Zal, fiery as ever, added, and who knows what nefarious purpose this stolen energy serves. Dracos, ever the strategist, interjected, Lord Groth, consider the audacity of such an act. Someone is brazenly manipulating our core systems. We must act with swiftness and might. Their pleas, however, fell on deaf ears. The High Council, blinded by their arrogance and a belief in their own invincibility, dismissed the concerns as paranoia. Days turned into weeks as the elders deliberated, their indecisiveness a source of immense frustration for Volker and his team. The stolen energy continued to flow, the unseen threat slowly tightening its grip around the star. Finally, the day arrived that shattered their comfortable denial. A tremor ran through the planet, a subtle shift in the very fabric of reality. The air crackled with a foreign energy, a palpable unease settling upon every living being. The normally vibrant blue sun appeared sickly yellow, its warmth replaced by an oppressive heat. The ground beneath their feet trembled, once fertile lands began to crack and wither. Celestial beasts howled in confusion, their instincts sensing the looming disaster. Panic erupted. The very foundation of their existence was crumbling, and the once skeptical elders were thrown into chaos. They scrambled, desperately seeking answers, their eyes landing on Volker with a newfound respect bordering on desperation. Volker, rasped Elder Groth, his voice devoid of its usual arrogance, you were right. We need to find the source of this catastrophe. Can you locate it? Volker, his initial anger replaced by a grim determination, nodded curtly. Yes, but I require specific artifacts. Treasures capable of storing and manipulating the raw essence of Earth vein and Heaven vein. Without hesitation, the High Council provided him with everything he requested. The once dismissive council members were now desperate, their arrogance replaced by a gnawing fear. Volker, with Zerga, Zal, and Dracos by his side, wasted no time. Utilizing the celestial treasures, they conducted a meticulous survey. They channeled the stolen energy, tracing its path back to its source. It was a meticulous process, akin to navigating a labyrinth blindfolded. Hours bled into days as they followed the invisible trail of stolen power. Finally, a faint pulsating signature emerged in their instruments. A location was pinpointed, a desolate valley far removed from any major settlements. With a sense of dread, Volker knew they were closing in on the heart of the problem. He gathered a formidable force, comprised of elite warriors and skilled cultivators. This was not a reconnaissance mission. This was a desperate attempt to avert a cataclysmic disaster. The desolate valley materialized before them, a stark contrast to the vibrant landscapes they had traversed. A sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air, a tangible manifestation of the impending doom. As they approached, a colossal wave of energy pulsed from within the valley, warping the very fabric of reality. Volker, his face etched with dread, recognized the telltale signs of the foreign array. The Power Convergence Array, a monstrous engine of destruction, stood at the heart of the chaos. A swirling vortex of raw power, infused with an unnatural darkness, crackled menacingly at its core. Even without touching it, the elders felt the insidious energy radiating from the array. This was the source of their woes, the malevolent force tearing their star apart. A collective gasp escaped their lips as they surveyed the devastation wrought upon the valley, a testament to the destructive power harnessed by this infernal machine. This is the one, an elder murmured, his voice a low growl. This is what's been plaguing our star. Hope flickered in their eyes. One of the younger warriors spoke up at this moment and asked, so, if we dismantle this thing, will the destruction stop? It's not that simple, he said, his voice grim. By my estimates, this array has been operational for at least a fortnight. It's already saturated the core with this corrupted energy. Top VL updates on n/o/v/lb/in.com. Dismay flickered across the elders' faces. They had deactivated the central grand power array formations in each settlement, hoping to starve the convergence array of its power source. But it was too late. The elders' faces paled. So dismantling this array won't stop the destruction? Volker shook his head. No. Dismantling it now would trigger an immediate detonation of the core. We'd be blowing ourselves to oblivion. A heavy silence descended upon the group. The weight of their predicament settled in, crushing. They had stumbled upon a double-edged sword, a source of their suffering, yet its continued operation was their only defense against a far more catastrophic event. Then what do we do? Another elder asked, his voice barely a whisper. Volker's gaze swept across the desolate valley, landing on the distant horizon. We evacuate, he declared, his voice firm. We need to get as many of our people off this star as possible. Based on the current rate of deterioration, we have a week, maybe two, before the core reaches a critical point. A ripple of shock ran through the group. Evacuating an entire star was a colossal undertaking, one bordering on the impossible. Yet, the grim reality of their situation left them with no other choice. A wave of dissent rose amongst the younger warriors, their faces contorted in a mixture of fear and defiance. Abandoning their home? It seemed unfathomable. But the elders, with a newfound understanding of the gravity of the situation, nodded grimly. Volker is right, Elder Zalith said, her voice heavy with sorrow. We must prioritize the survival of the tribe. We can rebuild elsewhere, but only if we survive. A tense silence descended upon the group. The weight of their situation settled in, their world was dying, and their only hope for survival lay in an exodus. They needed to find a new star, a new home, before their own was consumed by the self-inflicted cataclysm brewing within its core. Volker outlined a plan. Utilizing their remaining resources and celestial ships, they would embark on a desperate migration. It would be a perilous journey, fraught with the dangers of the void and the possibility of encountering hostile forces. But it was their only chance. As they strategized, a figure emerged from the shadows at the edge of the valley. Wang Jian, a smirk playing on his lips, watched the scene unfold. Looks like our little project is nearing its climax, he said to Yu Qing, who stood beside him. Volker and the infernal Stellar Smith leadership were consumed by their own unfolding crisis, oblivious to the true architects of their destruction. The revelation of the power convergence array had triggered a flurry of activity. Preparations for evacuation were underway, a desperate scramble to escape the impending stellar detonation. Fortunately, the tribe possessed a formidable fleet of celestial ships, which were capable of traversing the vast expanse of the void. Elders huddled together, strategizing various routes and destinations. Their once proud star, their cradle of civilization, was now a ticking time bomb, forcing them to seek refuge amongst other devil tribes. Diplomacy, long neglected in favor of self-sufficiency, became paramount. The infernal Stellar Smith tribe, known for their mastery of forgecraft and celestial weaponry, held a certain prestige within the devilish hierarchy. They would leverage this reputation to secure temporary shelter and resources on a nearby star while they scouted for a permanent home. Amidst the chaos, a meticulous process began. Generations of accumulated wealth had to be packed, precious artifacts and celestial tools carefully secured. Among these treasures was the very reason Wang Jian and Yu Qing had orchestrated this elaborate operation, the reforged Scarlet Slaughtering Star, the essence of Yu Qing's former power. However, patience remained key. Details were still sketchy. Who amongst the high-ranking devils would assume custody of the reforged star core, the sword? Logic dictated it would be the chieftain, a formidable cultivator and natural custodian of the tribe's most potent artifacts. But assumptions could be dangerous. We can't risk assumptions, Yu Qing murmured, her voice barely a whisper. We need to know for sure who's carrying it. Wang Jian nodded in agreement. A direct attack on the chieftain was risky, bordering on reckless. But time wasn't a luxury they could afford. The evacuation wouldn't take long, and with it, the opportunity to snatch the sword would be gone and lost amongst the population of the higher-ranking experts of the infernal stellar Smith Devil tribe. Thus, Wang Jian employed a cunning strategy at this moment. With a flick of his wrist, he channeled a sliver of celestial energy, conjuring a single, shadowed sheet of paper. In elegant script, a message materialized. Greetings, esteemed chieftain. I, the architect of your current predicament, write to you with a proposition. The device that plagues your star, the power convergence array, is but a thought away from deactivation. However, a fair exchange is required for this act of mercy. Surrender the reforged blade, the one birthed from the ashes of the scarlet slaughtering star. Deliver it to the desolate valley where the array resides, and your home shall be spared from an immediate oblivion and your tribe will be allowed to escape from this star. Failure to comply will result in the array's dismantling, and with it, the swift and fiery demise of your precious star. Choose wisely, chieftain. Time is not your ally. A shadow in the night. The note, imbued with a touch of Wang Jian's shadow magic, materialized soundlessly before the chieftain. The chieftain's eyes widened in shock, his breath catching in his throat. The spectral message hung in the air, a chilling testament to the unseen force manipulating their fate. He reread the note, his mind racing. A devil who could manipulate the shadow energy with such finesse truly shocked him, as he couldn't find a trace of this shadow energy at all. Moreover, according to the words written on this, it was a threat beyond comprehension. Alert the elders, the chief Tian barked, his voice tight with urgency. We have a situation. The arrival of the spectral note sent shockwaves through the infernal stellar Smith tribe's leadership. A tense council was convened, the weight of the message hanging heavy in the air. The threat was undeniable, the consequences dire. Yet, a nagging suspicion lingered. N/W novel chapters are published on no/vel/bin.co/m. This message, Elder Groth rumbled, his voice laced with suspicion, it speaks of the scarlet slaughtering star. How could this outsider possess such knowledge? Fury erupted within the chamber. The contents of the spectral note were met with a cacophony of shouts and accusations. Fingers were pointed, blame thrown. The scarlet slaughtering star, roared one elder, his voice dripping with venom. That accursed goddess! She brought this upon us. The revelation ignited a firestorm within the infernal stellar Smith leadership. Here was the villain, the source of their tribulations, not some shadowy manipulator, but the very being they had once sought to exploit. Rage contorted their faces, a primal desire for vengeance clawing at their insides. However, the chieftain, a seasoned leader, slammed his fist on the table, quelling the rising tide of anger. Shouting achieves nothing. We face a dire situation, not a casual disagreement. We need to decide, the blade or our star? The weight of his words settled heavily on the room. Anger simmered, but the cold logic of survival clawed its way to the forefront. Sacrificing the reforged blade, a symbol of their arrogance, seemed a small price to pay for the preservation of their world. A tense vote followed. Some argued for a last stand, a defiant defense of their home against this unseen enemy. But the majority, their hearts heavy with despair, opted for pragmatism. The blade, a potent weapon, yes, but ultimately replaceable. Their world, their legacy, irreplaceable. As the decision echoed through the chamber, a sense of grim acceptance settled in. This was a retreat, a humiliation, but survival was the priority. Meanwhile, within the desolate valley, shrouded in shadows, Wang Jian and Yu Qing conversed in hushed tones. "They'll know it's me now, won't they?" Yu Qing whispered, a hint of apprehension in her voice. "That note, it points the finger directly at me. Once these devils spread word of this." "Relax, Qinger," Wang Jian reassured her, a sly smile playing on his lips. "I anticipated this. They may suspect your involvement, but that won't change their course of action. Their backs are against the wall, remember?" "True," she conceded, "but even if they surrender the sword, escaping won't be a walk in the park. Once we leave the star, other devil tribes might be alerted. Powerful cultivators, potential enemies." A sly smile played on Wang Jian's lips. "You really worry too much," he said, his voice a steady counterpoint to her agitation. "Leave this to me. I have a plan to ensure our smooth departure." He still hadn't revealed his trump card, the hidden heavenly jade pavilion flying ship he had used to infiltrate the infernal stellar Smith Devil Tribe star system. It was a vessel capable of traversing the void undetected, the perfect escape vehicle for their daring operation. But revealing that secret now would only raise suspicion. "Focus on retrieving the blade," he instructed, his voice firm. "Your celestial energy signature can be masked. Once you have it, leave the escape to me. Trust me, we'll be leaving this star system in style." Yu Qing knew it was best not to dwell on the details. Acquiring the blade was their priority. With a resolute nod, she channeled her celestial energy, cloaking herself in a veil of invisibility. As twilight settled, casting long shadows across the valley, a lone figure emerged from the infernal stellar Smith camp, carrying a velvet pouch. It was one of the younger warriors, chosen for his loyalty and discretion. He approached the designated spot, his heart pounding in his chest. Apprehension mingled with a sense of duty, this was their only hope for survival. He placed the pouch on the ground, retreated a few steps, and turned away, not daring to look back. Moments later, Wang Jian and Yu Qing materialized from the shadows, their eyes gleaming with anticipation. Yu Qing, her gaze fixed on the pouch containing the reforged blade, felt a surge of power emanating from within. It was a familiar hum, an echo of her former celestial self. Bending down, she retrieved the pouch, a triumphant smirk gracing her lips. With this blade in her possession, her power would be restored, her celestial core reforged. Now, with her strength replenished, they could finally leave this doomed star and forge a new path. "Excellent," Wang Jian said, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. "Now, let's get moving. We have a long journey ahead." He cast a final glance at the desolate valley, the site of their initial deception and soon-to-be detonated star. A cold, calculating look flickered across his face, a flicker that Yu Qing, in her haste, failed to notice. The success of their plan hinged not just on escape, but on ensuring loose ends were neatly tied. With the reforged blade secured and their escape route ready, they vanished into the twilight sky, leaving behind a trail of destruction and a tribe teetering on the brink of oblivion. The infernal stellar Smith Devils, unaware of the true mastermind behind their plight, prepared to embark on a desperate exodus. In the meantime, the desperate plea for assistance from the infernal stellar Smith Devils rippled outwards, reaching the ears of countless devil tribes nestled within nearby stars and far-flung clusters. The message painted a dire picture, the monstrous scarlet slaughtering star, once a formidable foe, now skulked on their doorstep. The infernal stellar Smith Devils, reeling from the devastation of their star and facing imminent expulsion, begged for aid. The call to arms found receptive ears. Many devil tribes, harboring grudges against the legendary star goddess, relished the opportunity for revenge. Swiftly, they mobilized their forces, dispatching elite warriors and powerful cultivators to the designated location, the infernal stellar Smith Devil Tribe star. Meanwhile, oblivious to the gathering storm, Wang Jian and Yu Qing found themselves aboard a magnificent vessel. It was no ordinary ship, its sleek, ethereal design hinted at its celestial origins. Hidden within its hull resided a complex network of energy channels, humming with restrained power. As they stepped aboard, a wave of deference washed over them. Pavilion Mistress Cui Lan, her face etched with a mixture of relief and reverence, bowed deeply. Flanking her stood a contingent of women, their eyes gleaming with a familiar loyalty, the elders of the Heavenly Jade Pavilion. "Welcome back, Master," Cui Lan intoned, her voice laced with a hint of awe. "It has been a long month in your absence." Wang Jian offered a curt nod, his gaze flitting towards Yu Qing. Curiosity flickered in the star goddess's eyes as she took in the scene, the opulent surroundings, the women radiating an aura of power, and their unwavering devotion to Wang Jian. "Who are these women?" Yu Qing finally asked, unable to contain her curiosity any longer. The powerful star force emanating from them was impossible to ignore. Wang Jian, ever the enigma, flashed a sly smile. "This, Qinger," he began, his voice low, "is the Heavenly Jade Pavilion." Yu Qing's eyes widened. Even in the far-flung western region, whispers of the Heavenly Jade Pavilion's prestige had reached her ears. They were a formidable force in the eastern region, renowned for their mastery of celestial arts and their unparalleled network of information. A wave of disbelief washed over her. These women, with power rivaling her own, addressed Wang Jian as master? What secrets did he harbor? Where did this hidden connection stem from? Sensing her rising confusion, Wang Jian simply winked. "Let's just say, Qinger, there's more to me than meets the eye. Consider this a little bonus for our little partnership." Yu Qing pressed her lips together, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within her. Cui Lan and the elders, meanwhile, averted their eyes, a flicker of embarrassment coloring their cheeks. The truth of their subservience to Wang Jian was far too unconventional to share with an outsider, especially one with ties to a celestial body like Yu Qing. As an awkward silence descended upon the group, Wang Jian steered the conversation towards more immediate concerns. He outlined the dangers that awaited them as they emerged from the infernal stellar Smith Devil Tribe star system. The news of Yu Qing's presence wouldn't stay confined for long, drawing the ire of countless devil tribes. However, Wang Jian assured them all by telling them that its celestial-grade cloaking array formations and advanced defense systems would provide them with a crucial advantage, allowing them to slip past the cordon formed by the devil tribes. A glimmer of hope flickered in Yu Qing's eyes. With the reforged blade in her possession and a reliable mode of escape at their disposal, they had a fighting chance. "All right, then," Yu Qing declared, her voice ringing with newfound determination. "Let's get out of here." Wang Jian grinned, a glint of mischief in his eyes. "That's the spirit, Qinger. Now, buckle up. We have a long journey ahead." With a surge of celestial energy, the hidden flying ship pulsed to life. The sleek vessel, cloaked in an ethereal shimmer, melted into the vast canvas of space, leaving behind the doomed star and the oblivious devil tribes eagerly awaiting their nemesis. The infernal stellar Smith Devil Tribe star dwindled into a distant speck as the hidden flying ship plunged deeper into the void. A strange silence settled over the ship, a stark contrast to the frantic activity they had left behind. Wang Jian, his eyes fixed on the receding star, finally turned to Yu Qing. "It won't be long now," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. Yu Qing raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" A sly smile played on Wang Jian's lips. "The infernal stellar Smith Devil Tribe star, it's going to explode." Yu Qing raised an eyebrow, a flicker of curiosity dancing in her eyes. "Explode? How?" A cold smile played on Wang Jian's lips. The power convergence array, he explained, had a safeguard. A failsafe, if you will. He paused, letting the silence build before continuing. A link existed between me and the array. As long as I remained within its range, it remained stable. But the moment I strayed too far, a slow realization dawned on Yu Qing's face. This wasn't just a plan to escape, it was a calculated act of revenge. The infernal stellar Smith devils would meet the same fate they had inflicted upon her beloved Scarlet slaughtering star. A tense silence descended upon the group as the hidden flying ship hurtled through the void. Time seemed to stretch and contract, each passing moment carrying them further away from the doomed star. An hour crawled by, punctuated only by the soft hum of the ship's engines. Then, a sudden jolt tore through the vessel. A blinding flash erupted in the distance, visible even through the ship's advanced shielding. The void itself seemed to ripple and distort, a silent testament to the cataclysmic event unfolding beyond their visual range. The infernal stellar Smith Devil's star was no more. Yu Qing gasped, a wave of exhilaration washing over her. The sight of the distant explosion, a supernova blooming in the cosmic darkness, filled her with a sense of cathartic release. Years of simmering anger finally found an outlet. The tribe that had wrought such destruction upon her world, that had snatched everything she held dear, was gone, reduced to a cloud of interstellar dust. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring her vision. Unable to contain herself, Yu Qing crossed the distance separating her from Wang Jian and wrapped him in a fierce hug. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You avenged them. You avenged my people." Wang Jian, caught off guard by her sudden embrace, hesitated for a moment. Then, he gently returned her hug, a hint of understanding in his eyes. He knew the weight of her past, the burden of loss she carried. This, perhaps, was a small act of solace, a way for her to move on. "It wasn't just for you, Qinger," he said softly. "But yes, it was a part of it." He didn't reveal the full extent of his motives. There was time for that later. As the shockwaves from the distant explosion subsided, a solemn mood settled over the group. The pavilion members, while not privy to the personal history between Yu Qing and the infernal stellar Smith devils, couldn't help but feel the weight of the event. The vastness of space held a new resonance, a stark reminder of the consequences of conflict and the fragility of celestial bodies. Cui Lan broke the silence. With that threat neutralized, "Master," she began, addressing Wang Jian, "where to next? Do you have a specific destination in mind?" Wang Jian, his gaze fixed on the shimmering void, a map of possibilities unfurling in his mind. The hidden flying ship, a marvel of celestial technology, propelled them through the cosmos, a vessel unbound. He could steer them towards familiar territory, a safe haven within the heavenly jade pavilion's vast network. Or, he could chart a new course. A wry smile played on his lips. The journey, it seemed, was far from over. "Set course for X-98, he declared, a glint in his eyes. "The Blue Moon Eclipse Devil Race." A flicker of surprise flitted across Cui Lan's face, quickly replaced by a stoic nod. "As you command, Master." Yu Qing, momentarily confused, frowned. "The Blue Moon Eclipse," she echoed, suspicion creeping into her voice. "Why there?" Wang Jian's smile turned enigmatic. "Let's just say," he drawled, "I have some unfinished business. Business that requires a particular expertise." Yu Qing, her fiery satisfaction fading, cast a curious glance at Wang Jian. What did he have planned for the Blue Moon Eclipse Devil race? Were they another target on his list? Or was there another motive hidden behind his decision? As the hidden flying ship sliced through the swirling void within a spatial tunnel, a monotonous hum filled the air. Wang Jian, his gaze fixed on the swirling vortex ahead, finally broke the silence. "It'll be a long haul, Qinger," Wang Jian finally said, turning to Yu Qing. "Why don't you get some rest? You must be exhausted after." He trailed off, leaving the unspoken destruction of the infernal stellar Smith Devil tribe hanging in the air. Yu Qing, her eyes heavy-lidded, nodded in agreement. The weight of recent events still pressed down on her. Witnessing the destruction of her former enemy had been cathartic, but it also left a void in its wake. "You're right," she replied, her voice a low murmur. "I could use some time to rest and think about what has happened." A flicker of an idea sparked in Wang Jian's eyes. "Speaking of regrouping," he said, a sly smile playing on his lips, "there's a matter you might want to attend to with your newfound blade." Yu Qing's brow furrowed slightly. "The reforged blade? What about it?" "Remember," Wang Jian continued, "it's not just a powerful weapon. It holds a fragment of your celestial essence. Refining it into your natal treasure would significantly enhance your power." Understanding dawned on Yu Qing's face. Integrating the reforged blade with her divine soul, becoming one with it, would allow her to unlock its full potential and amplify her own celestial abilities. "You're absolutely right," she declared, a spark of determination flickering in her eyes. Wang Jian then beckoned towards one of the elders of the Heavenly Jade Pavilion, a woman whose beauty was a bit inferior to Yu Qing's but held a more alluring, mature charm. "Elder Mei," he addressed her, his voice holding a hint of authority, "escort Lady Yu Qing to the Azure Phoenix Chamber. It's a well-shielded chamber, perfect for her undertaking." Elder Mei bowed gracefully. "As you command, Master Wang Jian." The Azure Phoenix Chamber, as its name suggested, was a marvel of celestial engineering. Wang Jian had personally inscribed it with complex array formations. These formations, while invisible to the naked eye, possess the ability to absorb excess spiritual and divine energy. This excess energy, instead of dissipating uselessly, would be channeled and distributed throughout the entire hidden flying ship, subtly enhancing the cultivation environment for everyone on board. Elder Mei, her movements imbued with practiced grace, led Yu Qing through the ship's opulent corridors, finally arriving at a massive obsidian door. With a flick of her wrist, the door slid open, revealing a chamber bathed in an ethereal blue light. "This chamber is yours, Star Goddess," Elder Mei announced, her voice respectful. "May you find solace within its walls." "Thank you, Elder Mei," Yu Qing said, a genuine smile gracing her lips. This unexpected kindness did much to alleviate her lingering doubts. Elder Mei bowed slightly. "It is my pleasure, Star Goddess. Should you require anything, do not hesitate to call." With that, she turned and left Yu Qing to her solitude. Once alone, Yu Qing closed her eyes, drawing in a deep breath. As exhaustion finally claimed her, she sank onto the plush cushions adorning the central platform. Now that a semblance of peace had settled, her gaze drifted towards the velvet pouch resting on a nearby table. Inside, nestled within its soft lining, lay the reforged blade, a conduit to her former power. A determined glint flickered in her eyes. Once she was well rested, it was time to forge a deeper connection with the blade. She planned to embark on a delicate process, refining it into her natal treasure. This intricate ritual would bind the blade to her divine soul, allowing her to wield its power with unparalleled control. Meanwhile, within the ship's command center, a different scene unfolded. Wang Jian turned his gaze towards Cui Lan and the other elders of the Heavenly Jade Pavilion. The playful glint in his eyes morphed into something more predatory. "Ladies," he drawled, his voice taking on a suggestive tone, "I believe a celebration is in order. What do you say we head to my quarters? I have a few celebratory refreshments I'd love to share." The elders exchanged a knowing glance. They were no strangers to Wang Jian's carnal desires, their subservience a result of a twisted pact far beyond their control. A slight blush crept across Chui Lan's cheeks, but none of them dared to voice an objection. With a resigned sigh, she rose, her silk robes whispering against the polished floor. "As you wish, Master Wang Jian," she said, her voice laced with a hint of forced sensuality. The other elders followed suit, a parade of beauty tinged with a subtle air of despair. The journey to his chambers was a silent one, the unspoken tension hanging heavy in the air. 7 sit envelb/n. C/m for L test vels. The heavy chamber door closed with a soft thud, muffling the sounds that erupted from within. The air crackled with a raw, primal energy that seeped out from beneath the door, a testament to the depraved indulgence unfolding within. Hours melted into an eternity, punctuated only by the muffled sounds of pleasure and exertion. The elders, despite the involuntary nature of their participation, found themselves caught in a whirlwind of forbidden ecstasy, their bodies responding to Wang Jian's masterful control. Finally, as dawn painted the celestial canvas with streaks of gold and crimson, the sound subsided. Exhausted but strangely exhilarated, the elders emerged from Wang Jian's chamber, their faces flushed, and their eyes glazed with a strange mixture of shame and satisfaction. Wang Jian, on the other hand, seemed invigorated. A cruel humor flickered across his face. Yu Qing awoke from a deep, restorative sleep. The azure phoenix chamber, bathed in its ethereal blue light, felt more like a sanctuary than a mere spaceship room. She stretched languidly, the tension of recent events slowly easing from her muscles. Reaching for the velvet pouch on the table beside her, she retrieved the reforged blade. Its cool surface seemed to hum with a faint energy, resonating deep within her core. This was more than just a blade, it was a fragment of her former power, a key to unlocking the full potential of the scarlet slaughtering star goddess. Closing her eyes, she focused her energy, immersing herself in the essence of the blade. Images flickered in her mind's eye, the devastation of her home star, the betrayal, the flicker of vengeance. But beneath it all, a deeper truth resonated, the unwavering connection between her and this weapon. This was the beginning of a long and intricate process. Refining the blade into her natal treasure would take time, dedication, and above all, unwavering concentration. It was a delicate dance, weaving her divine soul with the essence of the weapon. Even at her current pace, it would require nearly a year of uninterrupted effort. Fortunately, the azure phoenix chamber, with its intricate array formations, offered her the perfect environment to concentrate. The formations hummed softly, absorbing excess spiritual and divine energy that radiated from her as she immersed herself in the process. Meanwhile, within a different section of the ship, a scene of a far less spiritual nature unfolded. Wang Jian, reclining in his plush cabin, was entangled with the alluring form of pavilion mistress Chui Lan. "Why the X-98 star, master?" Chui Lan inquired, her voice husky as she ran a finger down Wang Jian's chest. Wang Jian chuckled, his eyes gleaming with a spark of ambition. "Conquest, my dear Chui Lan," he said, his voice dripping with a casual cruelty. "The Blue Moon Eclipse Devil tribe is ripe for the taking." Chui Lan arched an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. "Conquering an entire devil tribe? Ambitious, aren't we?" "Ambitious?" "Perhaps," Wang Jian conceded, his grip tightening around Chui Lan's waist. "But remember, I share their bloodline." Chui Lan knew this. Wang Jian's past was shrouded in mystery, but his lineage held the mark of the Blue Moon Eclipse Devils. However, lineage alone wouldn't guarantee control of a powerful devil tribe. Sensing her doubt, Wang Jian leaned in closer, his lips brushing her ear. "The key lies in seduction," he murmured, his voice laced with a darkness that sent shivers down her spine. "There's not a woman alive I can't bend to my will." Chui Lan felt a heat rise in her cheeks. She couldn't deny the truth in his words. His charismatic power, coupled with his ruthless cunning, had ensnared her and the entire Heavenly Jade Pavilion. Could he truly manipulate an entire tribe of formidable devil women in the same way? Deep down, a part of her acknowledged the truth in his words. His seductive techniques were legendary. "What about the men?" she asked, a flicker of doubt lingering in her voice. "Surely, they won't simply surrender their tribe on a whim." "Oh, the men will fall in line," Wang Jian assured her, his voice dripping with a chilling certainty. "Once the women are on board, the rest will follow. Trust me, Cui Lan, I have a plan." A tense silence descended upon the room. Cui Lan, her mind swirling with conflicting emotions, found herself silently accepting his words. Loyalty, deeply ingrained through a twisted oath, compelled her to obey. Yet, a sliver of unease gnawed at her. Wang Jian's ambitions were vast, his methods ruthless. She couldn't help but wonder where this audacious journey would ultimately lead them. A gasp escaped Cui Lan's lips as Wang Jian's hand skimmed down her arm, sending a tingle of electricity through her body. She couldn't deny the thrill, the intoxicating blend of fear and desire that swirled within her. "Why the blue moon eclipse devils, master?" she murmured, her voice laced with breathless curiosity. "It's a mid-ranking tribe at best. What resources could they possibly offer that justify such a risk?" See check out LTSTVL on novl/bin.cm. Wang Jian chuckled, a low sound that sent shivers down her spine. He leaned closer, his lips brushing against her ear. "Survival, my dear Cui Lan," he whispered, his voice husky with desire. "The key to our very survival." He cupped her breast, his touch possessively firm. A gasp escaped Cui Lan's lips as he squeezed gently. "Star-Lords," he continued, his voice laced with a dangerous edge. "Once we leave this cluster of ancient devil stars, we'll face their relentless pursuit." Cui Lan's eyes widened. The Star-Lords were notorious for their ruthless efficiency. They wouldn't hesitate to eliminate a threat like Yu Qing, especially with her star legacy as a Scarlet Star slaughtering goddess. "How do they know?" she breathed out, her voice laced with fear. "Surely, they haven't pinpointed her location?" A sly grin spread across Wang Jian's face. "Apparently," he drawled, his fingers moving to pinch one of her nipples, eliciting a sharp moan from her, "they possess a rather nasty little treasure. It can sense, well, let's just say it's tuned to detect Yu Qing's specific brand of divine energy." He leaned back, his eyes gleaming with a predatory glint. "That's where the blue moon eclipse devils come in." Cui Lan's brows furrowed in confusion. "How will they help us?" He chuckled, a low, throaty sound. "They'll be our distraction, our sacrificial lambs," he said, his words casual yet laced with a chilling indifference. "While the Star-Lords are busy squabbling with the blue moon eclipse devils over a false lead, we'll slip through unnoticed." The thought of devils dying didn't faze Cui Lan. As a human born under the heavenly Jade Pavilion's banner, she harbored a deep-seated distrust of anything devilish. But the way Wang Jian spoke, coldly calculating, sent a shiver down her spine. A mischievous glint twinkled in Wang Jian's eyes as he lowered his voice to a whisper. "Naturally, not all the blue moon devils will be sacrificed," he said, his lips tracing a path down her collarbone. "The beautiful ones, of course, will join my harem." A wave of possessiveness, hot and unexpected, surged through Cui Lan. The mere thought of him adding other women to his collection stung, even as her body responded eagerly to his touch. Wang Jian chuckled, no doubt sensing her shift in mood. "Relax, my dear," he murmured, his voice husky with amusement. "You, Cui Lan, are my loyal advisor, my confidant. There's always room for a few more beauties, but you'll always hold a special place." His words held a hint of truth, but Cui Lan knew better than to take them as a declaration of genuine affection. Still, a warm flutter filled her chest, a peculiar mix of possessiveness and gratitude. Suddenly, a sharp pinch on her nipple sent a jolt of electric pleasure through her. Her breath hitched, a moan escaping her lips as her body convulsed. All thoughts of devils and Star-Lords faded away, replaced by the primal surge of desire ignited by his touch. Wang Jian emphasized his point by pinching her breast more aggressively, the sensation sending a jolt of pleasure through her. Cui Lan, caught in the throes of passion, found herself falling for Wang Jian. A moan escaped her lips as he bit down on her nipple, the sharp, unexpected sensation sending a wave of ecstasy through her body. Logic and morality faded away, replaced by a primal desire for his touch. "Master," she whispered, her voice thick with desire, "do whatever you need to do. Just take me." A guttural growl escaped Wang Jian's throat in response to Cui Lan's surrender. "Too damn sexy," he rasped, his voice raw with desire. He wasted no time, his hands tearing at the silken fabric of her dress. Rips echoed in the room as the garment gave way, revealing the creamy expanse of her skin beneath. Cui Lan gasped, a mixture of shock and arousal flickering across her face. Yet, there was no resistance in her eyes, only a desperate yearning as she arched her back to meet his touch. Wang Jian didn't disappoint. He devoured her with his eyes, taking in the lush curves and the soft glow of her celestial essence that shimmered faintly around her. His hands skimmed her bare skin, sending shivers of pleasure down her spine. Each touch was like a brushstroke igniting a fire within her, leaving a trail of goosebumps in its wake. They tumbled onto the plush divan, a tangled mess of limbs and desire. Wang Jian's kisses were hot and demanding, his lips exploring every inch of exposed skin. He trailed his hands down her body, igniting every nerve ending with his touch. Cui Lan responded in kind, her own desires burning bright. She moaned into his lips, her fingers twisting in his hair as she urged him closer. The years of pent-up frustration and unspoken attraction exploded in a symphony of moans and gasps. They moved in a frantic dance, fueled by raw passion and the desperate need for release. Wang Jian, ever the dominant force, took control, his movements powerful and precise. Cui Lan surrendered readily, her body a willing vessel for his desires. Minutes bled into an eternity as they explored each other's bodies, pushing each other to the brink of ecstasy. Cui Lan, her mind a haze of pleasure, felt herself unraveling under his touch. She clung to him, her cries echoing in the confines of the chamber, a stark contrast to the peaceful sounds emanating from Yu Qing's secluded room. Finally, with a choked gasp and a shudder that racked his entire body, Wang Jian reached his peak. The room fell silent, save for their ragged breaths and the frantic thump of their hearts. He collapsed onto the divan beside her, his chest heaving. Cui Lan, drained but utterly satisfied, snuggled closer to him, her head resting on his chest. Well, truckers, that all for this part. See you all in the next video.